Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the opening drive on 101 ESPN in St. Louis, where it is 7 o'clock. Time check brought to you by Clarkson Jewelers, an officially licensed Rolex jeweler. Brooke Grimsley is here. Danny Mack is here. Matthew Rocchio is here. Second alert weather. It is 43 degrees if you're just getting up. So when you head out the door, wear that jacket this morning. I wore a jacket when I left the house this morning because it's 43 degrees and that's cold.
It is. It is very chilly. I went with a sweatshirt today. Good morning, everybody. And I noticed that we're all wearing some form of blue this morning.
Interesting.
Well, except for Rocchio, who's wearing purple.
Nothing wrong
so
with
I was
that?
talking about this side of the room, basically.
Yeah, right.
We all have some form of blue on this morning.
So I'm going with my
I guess your hat, is that
Cardinal
technically,
baby
it's
blue.
a form
I don't
of
know.
blue.
I kind of green, teal.
Yeah, looks
Oh,
blue
he
to
does
me,
have
but
blue on.
you know how I am with color, Dan.
Let me look.
I
know you're colorblind.
I know that there's probably a specific name to that
that's
color.
blue.
Yeah, it's blue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So everybody has a little bit of blue on.
Yeah, that's great. Looking forward to a show. Well, we are going to be blue today. We hope we don't make you blue. We have to make you happy. Here's what we got coming up. John Denton is going to join us. Greg Amsinger is in the air. He's in an airplane right now, flying from LaGuardia to LAX, getting ready for World Series Game 1 tomorrow night that you'll hear here on 101 ESPN. Pregame at 6 o'clock. So John Denton from MLB.com will fill in for Greg at 7:30, 8:15. Bernie Federko, Hall of Famer, will join us. And at 8:45, we'll continue our series of interviews with the 25-year anniversary of the St. Louis Rams winning Super Bowl 34. Hear from the tight end on that team, Roland Williams. The Blues are in action tonight. They take on Craig Berube and the Toronto Maple Leafs. That's a 5 o'clock pregame, 6 o'clock faceoff here on 101 ESPN. And the Blues will have to play their first game of many, probably 19 or so, without Robert Thomas. The Blues announcing yesterday that Robert Thomas suffered a fractured ankle in the Blues' loss to Winnipeg the other night and will miss 6 weeks with said fractured ankle. The injury occurred when he was hit by a shot puck. So one thing we learned is don't sacrifice yourself and don't give up your body for the team.
Well, usually it's a good thing, Randy.
Okay.
But in that situation, you could tell that it was not going to be good for Robert Thomas. And we talked about this yesterday, about what it would look like without having your top center in this group right now. And so now you have the question of what exactly these lines will look like. I know at practice yesterday, they had Braden Shin moved up to that top line, but Braden Shin did not have a great game the other night, if you were watching that one. So now you have some concerns about what your centers will look like here moving forward when you don't have Robert Thomas.
Well, Thomas was playing, 23 minutes a game?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
He's a top face-off guy. He can kill penalties.
He's your best player.
He's on the power play, and now other guys need to move up with their minutes. And as you mentioned, Shen probably goes to the top line, at least initially. I don't know if it stays that way. They've got other options, too, to look at as they move forward.
This is one of the difficulties of Pavel Buchnevich trying to make the transition from wing to center. It's a little easier to do when you have a second line opening rather than a first line opening. So as you mentioned, Dan, it's Shen at number 1. Yesterday in practice, it was Buchnevich as the number 2 center, and then Dylan Holloway was centering the third line. And Holloway's been a center throughout the course of his career, so that's nothing new to him. But he'll just have to get integrated with this particular organization and roster as a third line center.
I think one of the questions, too, is Dvorsky.
Mm-hmm.
Would you think about bringing him up? I mean, you didn't start the year with him, and there's a reason why. He probably wasn't ready. He's got 6 points right now in the A, but if things don't go well, you got to give him a shot and just bring him up and see what you got.
And we don't know how healthy Oscar Sundqvist is. He was activated yesterday as Robert Thomas was put on the injured list. And if Sonny can be a bottom 6 guy, that would make a big difference. I don't believe Sonny is a number 2 center for this team, but if you can find somebody to play in the top 6, then Sundqvist can make things better for you in the bottom 6.
I think the Dvorsky question is something that we will be looking at, but you do worry, to your point, Dan, is if he was ready to make this team, he probably would have already made this team. So they want to give him some more time, some more seasoning in the AHL, and is this the right time and position to bring Dvorsky in when he hasn't had that much time in the AHL this season?
Maybe this is just something during the next 6 weeks. Maybe it's halfway through the Thomas injury that you take a look at Dvorsky here.
Do you look at what happened in 2016 with Jaden Schwartz? He missed 49 games.
Yeah.
And he wasn't they didn't anticipate that he was going to miss that much time. And last year, the Blues were lucky. I think you'd say lucky. They were relatively healthy. And this year, it's already some injuries popping up. And when you have a little margin for error, and I think that they're at that point. They're better than they were a year ago. They have more depth. They have more speed, but there's a little margin for error, and they need really good goaltending. That's how they win. This one hurts. I mean, this was as you said, Randy, this is the guy they could ill afford to lose. I would put Bennington, HOFer in that conversation. I'd put probably Parayko in that conversation. And I think number one on the list is Robert Thomas. They could ill afford to lose him this season.
And the Jaden Schwartz situation, too. He did go through surgery, so that's something that adds to his timeline a little bit. But you still wonder, too. I know that 6 weeks is the timeline, but sometimes that's a little bit of an optimistic timeline, too, because you don't know how somebody fully recovers from something. Of course, Robert Thomas wants to come back, but this is a big concern because that is the one position when you're looking at this team, they don't have much depth in. They do have some depth, but when you're looking at somebody who can handle those top line minutes, there's not many people on this team who are capable of doing that.
And the Blues release yesterday said that Thomas will be reevaluated in 6 weeks. Didn't say he'd be back in 6 weeks, reevaluated in 6 weeks.
I like your idea, though. Only missing about 18, 16 games, 20 games, or whatever. I think you can get through that, but any more than that, it's going to get tricky. And by the way, they take on Craig Berube tonight. We'd be talking about that if the Thomas injury hadn't happened.
Well, and one other thing about taking on the Maple Leafs. Could you have a worse scenario for Braden Shen? Braden Shen isn't what he was 5 years ago or 3 years ago. So now he's going to be going up against Austin Matthews and John Tavares.
Yeah, good luck.
It has a chance to be pretty ugly.
Yeah, that's a really talented team. And, of course, for Craig Berube, there's a little extra something there because he's facing his former team. Craig Berube will always be a legend here in St. Louis, so I'm always hoping for success. I wonder how things are going for him dealing with the Toronto media. As we know, it's a lot different than what you were experiencing here in the States.
I wonder if he even cares.
I don't think he does. I don't think he does. But that's what made him just so endearing is because he really doesn't care.
Yeah, I think he handles it perfectly. And that's what you need. You can't get too emotional in that spot. No. You just got to, answer the questions and move on and do it with a stoic way about you.
I want to just for a moment go back 5 years to the next man up and how lucky the Blues were and how lucky you have to be to win a Stanley Cup. As you mentioned, when they went to the conference finals, they lost Jaden Schwartz for 49 games. But, man, when they had the run in 2019, especially once the playoffs started, they just didn't lose guys. They had everybody that they needed. And that makes all the difference in the world. If you lose because of the salary cap in this league, if you lose one of your top players, it's going to set you back big time.
Well, even if you did have a guy get injured, then they would find a way to come back. I mean, that was just such a tough team. You always see at the end of the season, too, when they release kind of some of the injuries that the players were dealing with, and you're just absolutely shocked that they were playing through a lot of that stuff. But, happy for Craig Berube that he was able to get this different position, and the Blues are in a whole different kind of era for them now, post-Craig Berube.
As Army said, you hire a development coach, and then when your team is ready, you hire a championship coach. And they're in a development stage, no doubt about it. And that's one thing about Dvorsky. At some point, you're going to have to bring him up and develop him because it's going to take him 2 years to become an impact player. So you might as well start that clock when he is comfortable enough playing professional hockey.
I think the big question is whether Robert Thomas will continue his hits on the morning drive.
Oh, yeah. The opening drive, yeah.
Or the opening drive, in morning drive.
Yes, starting
I always mess that up.
It is the morning.
A lot of people do. Don't worry about it. Next week, he will join us, and for the entirety of his injury, he will join us every week, and we're going to talk, obviously, because he's going to be watching 3 games a day or night. So, we're going to talk a lot of hockey with Robert Thomas.
Bring him in studio.
Yeah, might as well.
Bring him in as an analyst.
Yeah, get those crutches in here.
I think maybe are we trying to evaluate how his recovery is going, too, if he comes in here?
Every week, right. Thursday Night Football tonight on Amazon Prime. Vikings at Rams. It's a 7:20 kickoff St. Louis time. I wonder if this is the last game for Cooper Kupp as a member of the L.A. Rams. He's on the block, apparently. He's healthy and will play tonight. And I have to believe it's a showcase for the Rams as they look to move Cooper Kupp and move on to their next iteration of being good.
I'll add to it. What about Matthew Stafford, too?
Yeah. I know those are 2 really good questions. It really feels like, at least for Cooper Kupp, that is what's happening because there's so many trade rumors just flying around him right now.
Did you guys watch college football last night by any chance?
I did not see the college football.
I do know what happened, though.
Liberty.
Oh, yeah. Kennesaw State.
Kennesaw State. First win against an FBS opponent, and they knock off Liberty. So there's now only 9 undefeated teams remaining in the college football playoff.
And Liberty was a 27.5-point favorite and lost to Kennesaw.
That's right.
So it's all those undefeated. Penn State's not going to last as an undefeated. I'll be interested to see Oregon if they wind up undefeated. Iowa State, BYU from the Big 12, are they going to wind up undefeated? Miami plays on the edge every single week. Are they going to be able to stay undefeated?
BYU is an underdog, undefeated. I think they're 11th in the country, and they go to Central Florida this weekend because it's so hot, and they've got guys on the defensive side of the line playing offensive line right now and vice versa. It's crazy, but they're undefeated and go in as an underdog this weekend. It's kind of the way college football is this year. It's just crazy.
And we were talking about Mizzou yesterday perhaps being able to cover the spread against Bama. Probably not now. Word coming down yesterday from ESPN that not only is Nate Noel out for this game, but Brady Cook has been extremely limited in practice, and it's doubtful as to whether or not he's going to be able to go with that ankle injury.
I have a feeling, though, that maybe this is just me. We saw that Brady Cook did everything possible to make sure that he could come back in that game against Auburn. I just have a feeling that Brady Cook will find a way to play this weekend.
I think you'd have to cut off his leg for him not to play.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
I think he'll wind up playing, but we don't know. I don't know, but that's my gut is that he would play. 7 starters, 2 key reserves listed as questionable or doubtful for Mizzou this weekend. Now, Noel, you can run the ball against Alabama. That would be huge if he's not in there, and Brady Cook. And that's got to change the line. I think they're a 14-point underdog going into this weekend. Those 2 guys aren't a part of the offense. It could get ugly.
Maybe a lot of handing off to Marcus Carroll, who was supposed to be the nominal replacement for last year's running back. Come on,
You're
now.
talking about Cody Schrader?
Oh,
yeah,
there we go. From
but
Oakville.
Carroll, yeah, you're right. And Carroll, he's already picked up, I think, 131 yards and 4 touchdowns in the last 2 games, so he will be likely the primary tailback.
How quickly we forget.
Poor Cody Schrader.
I'll
How
never
can we
forget Cody
on
Schrader.
Yeah.
That was such a great story.
And then he goes to
the opening
Rams.
drive?
Yeah.
He is with the Rams, but
know.
he could end up with the Battlehawks one day.
Caw-caw.
Caw-caw.
And World Series Game 1 tomorrow night, and a couple of SoCal guys, Jack Flaherty, the former Cardinal, going to the mound for the Doyers, and Gerrit Cole, another SoCal guy who grew up as a John Key fan, will pitch Game 1 for New York. You have a couple of guys who, if nothing else, have the desire to be old school starters. I don't know if the teams will allow them or do allow them to be old school starters in general. But one thing about Flaherty and Cole is they would like to be old school guys.
They really would. I'm curious about, well, of course, it will be dependent on how their command is for the guys, but how long do you think the guys will go? How long do you think they'll pitch in the game? We saw Jack Flaherty where he was able to do 7 innings, but is that something that we see again? It's hard to tell.
Probably not against the Yankee lineup. I can't imagine that Rogers or Dave Roberts would allow that to happen. And now that the bullpen is fresh, they've been off for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I would guess that he'll go to the bullpen relatively early.
In watching Flaherty in his last start, he was not good.
No.
Velocity was way down. You could see initially he was getting underneath his slider, and we've watched him forever here in St. Louis. When he's got his slider working, he's going to be nasty, and he's going to be throwing strikes. And that's the other thing. Both these teams, and this is to answer your question, Brooke, in my opinion, both these teams, because they'll go to their bullpens early because both teams wind up working counts. They just work. They work the pitcher to death. I mean, it was 30-plus walks for the Dodgers in that series to get to the World Series. They just grind through at bats, and all of a sudden they don't chase, and the pitch counts up to 80 or 90. You're in the 4th inning, and you got to go to your bullpen.
Yeah, they make it tough.
They
Very
do.
patient at bats. So it'll be interesting to see. Maybe it actually comes down to the bullpen for both of these teams.
We're off and running here on this edition of the Opening Drive here on 101 ESPN. Coming up, are you sick of it? We've got Sick of It. Get your text into the Air Comfort Service text line 314-399-9646. 314-399. Yo-ho! It's Sick of It. Next on 101 ESPN. here on 101 ESPN. Brooke Grimsley, Dan McLaughlin, Matthew Rocchio, Randy Carricker. Text line is open. Brooke, what do you got today?
So this is what I am sick of this morning. I don't know if you guys have paid attention. I'm sure you have. You can't escape it on the news. But there is a lot of foodborne illnesses out there. That is what I'm sick of. What do you mean that there's listeria in frozen waffles? I have to watch out for frozen waffles right now. An E. coli outbreak in McDonald's. Not even McDonald's is safe at this point. It's really scary. And maybe I'm just being a little bit too paranoid. But I thought that my frozen waffles would be safe. At least. That's what I'm sick of. All these random foodborne illnesses right now.
What has the world come to? And by the way, should not foodborne illnesses be frozen to death by frozen waffles?
Yes, but there's been so many. Haven't even seen the major meat recall that they had with like even pre-cooked meat that you have to worry about that. So even my chicken tenders that I might have in the fridge or in the freezer, they're not safe either. I don't know. I'm very freaked out by all of it.
I'm sick of it. I'm with you.
Quarter pounders. I mean, you got to get your quarter pounder.
Yeah, right.
Yes.
And
McDonald's.
that's E. coli, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's E. coli. All right. I am sick of load management already in the NBA. I'm sick of it because, put it this way, if you had a ticket to go to Memphis to go watch LeBron James and you take your family and you're going from St. Louis and you make the drive to Memphis and the Lakers are in town and you're there, let's just say, to see LeBron James and he's sitting that one out and you didn't know it beforehand, because sometimes that stuff happens where the team has a plan, but it's not known publicly for obvious reasons, then, I'd be sick of that. I'd just go play the games. Now, here's the flip side of that. With Embiid in Philly last night, do you want him playing 50 games and being fresh for the playoffs, or do you think the league should step in and say, no, we need to do what's best for the fans and play every game?
You have to protect the player ultimately, and his knee is problematic. And at least they were at home. I think what your point is strong. I not that you only want players to play on the road or only play at home, but I think your point is really important because a lot of times when you're in an NBA city, it's come and see LeBron and the Lakers. It's come and see Embiid and the Sixers. They're marketing the other team's players to the home team's fans.
That's a good point. I hadn't thought about that. Yeah, if you're going to sit a guy, maybe do it at home
where they get 41 chances.
Yeah. Yeah. That's interesting.
I agree with you, though, because I think that's something that's really frustrating. But on the other side of it, we've been talking about those giant NBA contracts. That's a lot of money on those guys. So they want to keep them healthy.
Yep. Can I be sick of something that is never going to change?
Sure.
I'm sick of clickbait. I'm sick of Braves to trade for $124 million shortstop or Cubs to trade $120 million superstar. And then you go to the stupid clickbait from some person that got their job at SI.com last year and is writing and has never been in a clubhouse in their life or talked to a general manager or a POBO. I'm sick of that clickbait. And then they say, oh, well, it's a proposal. It could happen.
Yeah.
There are no factual bases, if that's a word, to any of these stories.
Well, and it could also be AI, but that's the way that sadly it's going now. We were talking about this morning because somebody sent over an article where the headline says Cardinals' new hitting coach led one of the worst offenses in baseball last season. But guys, he was only there 2 months.
Right.
Was he really able to implement anything with that team and be really fully tied to one of the worst offenses in baseball last season? That's not fair to do whatsoever. But I think in this day and age where people have short attention spans, it's hard to grab people's attention. That's sadly what you have now, where you have to have a really shocking headline in order to get people to click on it.
I am a big fan of facts.
Same.
Clickbait is obviously working for you in the wrong way because they got you to click.
Well, but here's the thing. I have learned now that I just scroll past. If there's not a name in the headline or it's not from a reliable source, I'm not going to click on it.
Okay.
So if we've got the superstar $240 million third baseman on his way to the Dodgers, I'm not going to click on it.
Who are you referring to, Randall?
I'm assuming that it's Nolan Arenado.
Oh, okay.
But I'm
I
not
wasn't sure. Yeah.
Let's get to some of your texts. Here is Matthew Rocchio. Matthew, are you sick of anything this morning?
That's a headline that they recycle, though, with Arenado every year.
It is a good one.
Yeah.
Okay, sick of it.
I'm glad you're chill.
I'm good. I'm sick of movie sequels. I don't want Minions 7 or Jurassic Park 9.5. I just like some original titles showing up in movie theaters. This will not apply to Happy Gilmore 2, though.
Okay, so here's the thing. if we didn't have sequels, we would have never had "You're a monster." So I cannot abide
You're
that
a
taste.
monster.
There we go. We can't have that. Gingy would not have had his most iconic line ever if we didn't have sequels. There we go. See, we need that stuff. We need the sequels.
Godfather 2.
Yeah.
That's a good
Might have
one.
been better than Godfather
Right.
1. And Matthew doesn't like Godfather or hadn't watched it or whatever. Of course, you need to watch it, man.
Forced sequels are different than ones that are like just like finishing out a book series. Like Mario Puzo wrote The Godfather. Like they had that.
Right,
So
the
you had,
Godfather
like,
2 is
this-
awesome.
Yeah, I know. The Godfather 2 is incredible. Maybe even, like young De Niro. Come on.
There's a mint julep waiting for you on the other side.
Mm-hmm.
Stonewall Jackson in Anchorman 2.
There's a lot of good sequels, but I do understand what they're saying, where there's some where it's like, why are we still doing this? Like, how many Fast and Furious movies are there? Some of them were good sequels, but then you're like, wait a minute, they're coming out with another one?
All due respect, I love Harrison Ford. I don't need to see 80-year-old Harrison Ford doing more Indiana Jones movies.
Love it. Give it
Can't
to
get
me.
enough.
I love seeing him. He's
the other
great.
one, the other one was the...
Just a skull.
and our thoughts and prayers are with Bruce Willis, but way too many diehards.
I would agree with that. What
Yeah.
about Star Wars? You guys into Star Wars?
I
You
love
can't
Star
get enough
Wars.
of
That's
Give
my
me,
favorite.
Randy, don't do this.
What?
I'm gonna. No, we're moving on before you slander it. No, you're not doing this.
The Luke Skywalker is my favorite Star Wars guy.
Okay, good. Thank God.
And Captain Kirk, of
No,
course.
see,
here we go.
see?
I knew it was coming.
Slander.
I knew it was coming.
How dare you? Give me all the Star
Yep,
Wars.
the Enterprise was like my favorite aircraft.
When they come out with Star Wars Episode 15, when I'm an older man, I will go see Star Wars Episode 15.
You know who's really bothered by this and won't tell me that he's bothered by it when I do this? Is Mike Ryder.
Oh,
Oh
yeah.
no, he's definitely bothered by it.
I
He'll
know,
tell you.
I feel bad for it. But
He just wanted to feed
I
into
don't
it.
do it.
don't.
It's a bit.
Terrible.
Still do
Okay,
it.
this is bad.
a
Or
ter-
maybe
it's a
it's
terrible
good. I don't
bit.
know.
It's a terrible
I
bit.
have never seen an entire Star Wars or Star Trek movie all the way through.
What?
Never, not one.
Why?
Why would you start it and then not finish it?
Because I don't think it's fun.
do you go to the theater and just walk out?
No, I never saw him. I never went to a theater. Never was intrigued enough to go to a theater and never watched him. Like, I may have rented a DVD at one point back in the day when they had DVDs and started and stopped.
Why?
Blu-ray.
Yeah. Yeah.
But why?
By the way, guys, just within the last week, I eliminated off of my phone my Redbox app.
Redbox.
Is Redbox still around?
I don't think it is.
I don't think it is either.
You're probably the last person holding that app together.
I know, yeah. I don't know. There might be one. I don't know. I think they were going into bankruptcy. There might be a Redbox around somewhere. I don't know.
I have never. I'm trying to think of the last time I've seen one. It's been a while.
DVD or a Blu-ray?
I'm talking
Or-
about Redbox.
Oh yeah,
I thought that was the
Text in
coolest
if
thing ever.
If there's a Redbox near you, if you're at there might be one at a 7-Eleven at Schutz and Lackland up here. I'm not sure. They used to be in Deerbergs. I don't know if they're still in Deerberg stores. We'll see. Well, somebody will tell us if indeed there is a Redbox around.
You know this. You're talking about like Gen Zers and stuff. They will never know the pain of when you would go and rent a Redbox and you were so excited to see a movie, but then someone switched it out with a different movie.
Yeah, that's the worst. That was the worst.
It was.
Yeah.
I'm sick of the Brady Cook slander. You guys wanted Pine. You got him. Now look what happened. Mizzou fans have done this since Chase Daniel left. It's time to give it a little rest and just watch the game since you all don't understand what a good QB can look like. I do want to say in that rant, he did call him Chase Daniels, which does seem a little bit like hitting yourself in the face with a
slanders.
pie.
Tony the Russo.
Yeah.
First of all, Coach Drinkwitz, thanks for listening. Thanks for the text. And I know, we're insane if we don't think that Brady Cook is the quarterback. I don't believe we've ever slandered Brady Cook here. I think we've always been Team Brady, haven't we?
Yes, we've been fair. I think that we maybe have pointed out. Of course, there's been moments
I think that was the
you
royal
could
we.
criticize.
I think that was the royal we.
Yeah.
I don't think that anybody you can't say like, oh, they're completely perfect. We have pointed out things. But with Brady Cook, what he was able to do, especially this past weekend, coming back and orchestrating that comeback against Auburn, you have to give him all the credit in the world.
Right. Question: has the opening drive ever? Did we ever pine for Pine?
No.
Ever.
Pine for Pine.
Thank you.
You're so proud of yourself.
I'm very proud of myself right now.
Although we blew the horn for horn.
We did do that, yeah.
Guilty as charged on that
Joe
one.
Horn.
A lot of people saying that there's a Redbox at Walgreens.
Really?
Too
Yeah.
many people are saying it. Good Lord.
So it must be true.
I still have my Blu-ray player set up.
40 texts.
Yeah. Well, okay, good. And I also have a big giant sound system that is completely unnecessary in my basement now. And I do miss the high quality video and audio of a Blu-ray, but I'm not ordering it anymore because I don't have the app anymore.
Yeah, but you have a hell of a setup in your basement. right?
I do, but I just don't. Number one, I don't watch enough movies anymore to make it worthwhile. And if I do watch a movie, it's on demand. But it's still, the quality isn't as good as it was with a Blu-ray.
What'd you guys watch last night? No hockey, no baseball?
A little basketball, though. You
Watch some hoop?
Yeah, there was a little
you had
basketball on.
Philly and Milwaukee early on, and then Phoenix and the opening game at the Intuit Dome. The
That
new
thing
Clippers
looked awesome.
Looks incredible, yeah.
It really did.
$70 garage parking at the Intuit Dome. If this is my favorite, I'm sick of it ever. I'm sick of NFL's grown men listening to their elementary school as their alma mater during introductions. You're really sick of that? This is the first time this person's ever texted into the show.
I love that for them. I don't have a problem with it, honestly.
texter or for the
yeah, for the
players?
texters. Their first time, and they are very passionate about this.
Little column B.
More and more, we're going to get to a point where players go to 4 colleges and 1 elementary school. So the elementary or high school might be more valid than any college that they could put up 4 different schools.
I like when they have all these different type of intros. It's always entertaining to see.
Remember Jared Allen doing Jared Allen Culinary Institute?
It is amazing when you watch the games now, and the announcer said, Smith with the tackle. He's a transfer from Liberty that went to Kennesaw State, played 1 year at Georgia State, and now here at Auburn.
Yeah.
It's just unbelievable. That's how it works.
And then there was a quarterback that moved, I think it was with his 4th school last year. I think he might have graduated now. He was at West Virginia, was a Georgia guy. JT or JD, started at USC, Georgia, West Virginia. I think he wound up at Rice. Might have been JT or JD Daniels. And I read a story about him, and he said that he went to class at every school, and he was going to get a degree.
How many years was he in?
I think 5 years, 4 teams.
The kid from Miami, well, he's not a kid. The tight end has played 7 years of college football.
9.
Is it 9?
Tight end. He's a 9th-year senior.
Go get a job.
So he got the COVID year. He probably had a redshirt year, probably a couple medical redshirt years.
Yes.
He scored his first touchdown this year.
He scored
Good
it in
for
the first
him.
game.
Yeah.
Wasn't he at Oregon, I think, at one point?
Yeah.
Do you
Probably
celebrate?
not enough time to go everywhere.
Do you celebrate as a grown man scoring a
Cam?
touchdown on children?
Oh, Cam McCormick.
Cam McCormick, yep.
I just gotta ask. Do you? You're a grown man. You just scored a touchdown on a bunch of on some children. Are you gonna dunk in their face on it?
Yeah, why not?
That's like when there's like a 25-year-old in college basketball who backs down like an 18-year-old freshman and dunks on him, and it's like, yeah, you're an adult. He's a child. Why are you proud of that?
Are we really calling these student athletes anymore? This is the semi-pros.
But you're 8 years older than the guy. You shouldn't be playing college basketball anymore.
Semi-professional league.
Yeah. JT Daniels, 18 and 19 at USC, 20 and 21 at Georgia, 22 at West Virginia, 23 at Rice.
Wow.
And claimed that he was going to school and going to get his degree.
All right.
Good for him.
Well, good for him.
Yep. Thank you, Matthew. And thank you very much for your texts. We do appreciate them. Coming up, a lot of moves by the Cardinals this week with the coaching staff and the front office. We're going to talk to our friend John Denton of MLB.com next on 101 ESPN.
This is Rocky with your Sports Center update, driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. Your St. Louis Blues are back in action tonight as they face off against the Maple Leafs. It'll be a 6 p.m. puck drop, which means you can catch the pregame show right here on 101 ESPN starting at 5 p.m. And, of course, the big Blues news yesterday, Robert Thomas with a fractured ankle means he will miss 6 weeks. Also, the NFL kickoff for Week 8 tonight, Vikings and Rams on Thursday Night Football. That is your Sports Center update, driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. See them at londoff.com. Chevy, together we drive. Are you kidding me?
I definitely think he brings a lot of energy. There's no doubt about it. That showed up in his interviews. But I feel like the way he thinks about hitting and how he approaches it is going to be a change from where we've been. And I think, keeping with the change model, I think that's healthy for us.
That's Cardinals Pobo John Mozeliak a couple of days ago on the Cardinals hiring of Brant Brown as their new hitting coach. John Jay also joining the staff, and Rob Cerfolio is the Cardinals' new assistant GM in charge of player development and player performance. Joining us now is John Denton of MLB.com. He covers the Cardinals and has covered all of the moves this week. Mr. Denton, always good to have you with us. How are you doing this morning?
I'm doing great, Randy. Thanks for having me.
Well, we're excited to have you. I want to start with Rob Cerfolio because I said during the season, I said if the Cardinals are going to get somebody to help enhance their development, go to Cleveland and get somebody from Cleveland where they do a magnificent job of developing young talent. As you have done your research on Rob Cerfolio here over the last couple of days, what have you found out about him?
Yeah, Randy, he's a young up-and-comer who clearly has a full grasp of player development, has an eye for talent. I mean, he's been a guy who's worked for the Guardians for a decade. They've been a model of, figuring out how to win, how to add pieces without spending, huge amounts of money. I think Cardinal fans should take note of who the team is adding. Chaim Bloom was a guy who developed a winner in Tampa Bay by, drafting, developing, not going to the free agency route. Rob Cerfolio is a guy who came from Cleveland. They won. They're a perennial contender in the AL by drafting, developing, not signing free agents. So, clearly the organization is telling you the direction they want to head over the next decade or so.
John, good morning, and thank you so much for joining us. And as Randy pointed out, there's also changes to the coaching staff, including Brant Brown being added as the new hitting coach. You look at his resume, he worked with the Dodgers, he worked with the Marlins and Skip over there, and then he moved over to the Mariners. Now, he was only there for a short period of time, but what has really stood out to you about his resume?
Yeah, Brooke, Brant is very intense. He's one of those very disciplined guys. He's all about the work. He's very detailed. It didn't work out for him in Seattle. He kind of took the fall for a bad offense. I mean, they were even worse after he left, so it wasn't really his fault. He came highly recommended by Skip Schumacher. Anytime Skip Schumacher recommends somebody, the Cardinals are going to listen. And, Skip loved having him in Miami. They made the playoffs in 23. He was with the Dodger team, that up-and-coming Dodger team with a lot of, prospects that won. He lives in Arizona now. A lot of people remember him as a Cub. They remember him dropping the ball that cost the Cubs 3 runs about 20-something years ago. But, yeah, he's in Arizona now. He's in St. Louis right now. I think he's house hunting. He's going to be kind of different, between Jeff Albert was more process, and then Turner Ward was more kind of the player's coach type. He's going to be somewhere in between those two. He's going to be a guy but he's very disciplined. He's very intense. He knows what he wants. He expects a certain thing out of the guys. So, it's going to be interesting to see how he can work with the Nolan Gormans and the Jordan Walkers and the Mason Winds, those young guys, and try to get the most out of them.
John, what's your gut feeling? And I know fans are really curious about this. A lot of rumors, or at least reports, and people speculating about Sonny Gray or Paul Goldschmidt coming back. Nolan Arenado could be on the move. What do you do with Wilson Contreras, Ryan Helsley? I mean, these are all names that are brought up, and people are wondering about the immediate future of those players looking at next season. What's your gut? I don't need you to go through every one of those guys, but what's your gut on what the team may do?
Yeah, Danny, Mike, there's a lot up in the air still with the revenue streams. They don't know exactly what the TV market's going to look like next year. There's uncertainty there. I think once they get more clarity, they'll know more. But we all know that there are going to be certain guys who are not going to be back here. Like when Ryan Helsley's not back here next season, it's going to be incredibly painful. A guy who just converted 49 out of 53 saves, the absolute epitome of a pro, a guy you want around here, that's going to be painful for St. Louis. And, I don't believe Nolan Arenado wants to go through a rebuild. I know he doesn't want to go through a rebuild. He's late in his career. He's 33. He doesn't want to go through another rebuild. I know Sonny Gray, wants to be in St. Louis because it's close to Nashville, and he wanted to be a part of a perennial winner. So it's going to be painful. A lot of those guys aren't going to be back here. It wouldn't shock me if the payroll's not cut in half, but maybe cut by a third. They're going to change the focus. They're going to get rid of these high-priced guys, and it's going to be painful to St. Louis. But fans need to get ready for it now. You're going to see guys go out the door who could help you win now for guys that you've never heard of. And you may not hear of them for 2 years, and it's going to be painful for Cardinal fans who are not used to going through this sort of thing. But it's definitely coming.
And, John, I think it's important to reiterate, and this is from your story a couple of days ago, and you mentioned a major shift. The Cardinals will be undergoing a massive shift in focus in 2025, the one that tilts more towards the development of their young assets and revamps their player development system in the minor leagues, as opposed to, and I think this is the key, as opposed to competing for a World Series title. That is something that I'm with you. I don't think the Cardinals are trying to win big in 2025. This new organization, and it will be a new organization, is geared towards future success, not current success.
Yeah, definitely, Randy. It's going to be different because, yes, they're going to try to win. Yes, Oliver Marmol wants to win every day. Yes, Mason Wynn wants to beat the team he's playing the next day, and Burleson and those guys are going to try to win every day, but I've been a part of this. I covered the Orlando Magic. They were perpetually in a rebuilding mode. It is painful. It's rough. There are going to be a lot of nights where they get their brains beat in, and there's no guarantee that just because you go through this process that you're going to win in 2 years or 3 years or 4 years. Who knows? A lot of people think, okay, we've been bad for 2 years, now we'll be good. There's no guarantee there when you go through this process. So you've got to get it right. You've got to draft right. You've got to develop right. But it's going to be something that Cardinal fans have never really gone through. There was always a question. I used to ask Mo all the time, are you allowed to rebuild in St. Louis? And he's like, no, because fans expect us to win every year. Well, that's not going to be the case next year. They're going to be a team that probably hopes to go 81-81. If that may be the first goal. But the playoffs are probably not going to happen, and competing for a 12th World Series is definitely not going to happen.
John, I could see somebody being interested in a guy like Sonny Gray. I have difficulty finding a team out there that would take on Nolan Arenado unless the Cardinals were willing to pay a massive portion of his contract. And even then, with the way he's performed the last couple of years, I'm not so sure that Arenado is a guy that a big money contending team is going to want to plug in at third base.
Yeah, that one's going to be interesting. I definitely think, Sonny has a lot to offer. Wilson has a lot to offer. But, like you said, Arenado's numbers are troubling. The way he's hit for power, his power numbers have fallen off dramatically. You just wonder, in the NBA, there's always a saying, there's only so many jumps in the knee. I've told people, I wonder if there's only so many diving stops in the body. Like, Nolan's 33, but Nolan's a rough 33 because Nolan played so hard and he made all those diving stops and he slammed his body into tarps and stuff like that. So, you just wonder how much more he has left in his body. He's promised to fully dedicate himself this all season to working in the gym, trying to change his body to get his power stroke back. but you just kind of wonder if it's there still at 33 years old.
John, I'm curious about, and I think fans are really curious about this too, how they'll take in the games on television next year. So what is your gut feeling on what may happen? Do they take it in-house? Do they take a reduced, role coming back in terms of what the money is going to be owed to them for a season? And the second part of that, when do they have to decide? So when you're trying to make an idea of what your budget looks like, at what point do you think they have to decide? So kind of a two-parter there on the television side.
Yeah, Danny, I'm kind of out of the loop on all that stuff. I think eventually that it will go to an on-demand type thing where you subscribe to a service, you get it streaming. I think that's the way everything's headed, where it's all going to be streaming. I'm not sure of deadlines, but I know this is a tremendous, tremendous concern of the Cardinals. For years they could always count on that one big nest egg that was always going to be there. That was kind of the center of their revenue stream. And now there's, major questions about it. I mean, we saw it last year. There's a reason why the Cardinals didn't sign anybody long-term last year, just because they were scared to death of this TV thing. There's so much, left to be played out. Like I said, eventually I think in 5 years we'll all be watching games streaming-wise. There won't be the cable option anymore. Who knows? Maybe it's going to help fans who are suffering through blackouts. I mean, I hear every day from fans who are angry about blackouts. Maybe they won't have that anymore, but it won't be that locked-in certainty number that the Cardinals have always counted on.
John, going back to the front office and the obvious moves and stuff that they have made, we were discussing this about kind of the direction that the Cardinals will be going within their organization. Clearly, they mentioned they will be cutting payroll and focusing on player development, but you have Serfolio coming in with his experience with the Guardians. You have Chaim Bloom with what he brings in from the Rays and also the Red Sox. Which direction do you think that they're going in? Will it be more like the Rays, or do you think it will be more like the Guardians? I'm kind of talking about with the Rays. Obviously, they produce talent, but also do they keep that talent moving forward?
Yeah, I think it'll be closer to what the Guardians do. But, I mean, it's not that the Cardinals are unwilling to spend. It's just that they're not going to – they don't want that to be their focal way of getting talent. They want to draft and develop because that's a way of controlling salaries. And I fully believe that, if they can draft and develop better, if they can get this core of young players to be their core of their team – then they will be willing to go out and supplement with free agents. They did that in 23 by signing Contreras. They did that in 24 by signing Sonny Gray. Their model is, they want to draft and develop. They want to get these kids to become focal points of the team and then supplement through free agency. If you're having to spend so much money in free agency, that's just not a sustainable model, especially in a small market like St. Louis.
How will this work, the dynamic of having Chaim Bloom and then John Mozeliak, trying to make decisions, I guess, together or with the Major League club or looking at who they supplement in the minor league system? How does that work with those two, you think, moving forward?
That's fascinating, isn't it, Danny? I wonder about that every day because, ultimately every decision you make is a long-term decision. Like you hope it's a long-term decision. I know they want Chaim to handle the minor league side and the development side and Mo to handle the team, but this is going to be Chaim's operation in 26. So every decision Mo makes is going to affect Chaim in 26. So I'm curious to see how it plays out. I'm not certain how it's going to play out. I'm not certain it's going to be successful or a failure, but boy, there's going to have to be a lot of collaboration there between the two. And, most tried to say that, there was collaboration last year, that they all do it as a team anyway. So I'm curious to see how this is going to work out. I know for now, Mo wants to handle all major league operations, but eventually that's going to fall in Chaim's lap. So I'm curious to see, watch it play out.
John Denton, we always appreciate you giving us some time, especially early in the morning this morning. Thank you so much, and have a great weekend, sir.
All right, you guys take care. Thanks.
Thanks, John. John Denton, MLB.com, with us on 101 ESPN.
I'm sure he's staying sharp on the pickleball court.
No doubt about it.
We didn't get to ask him about that, but I know that John is always on a pickleball court. It is very interesting because I think that is a big question. I mean, there's a lot of questions, obviously, with this offseason, but Dan, to your question, it's something that a lot of us are looking at when how this kind of tandem really works, because you have John Mozeliak clearly in his final season as the president of baseball operations, but we know that Chaim Bloom is waiting in the wing, but who is really going to be the ones making the moves, like the Cerfolio hire? That was, I assume, a Bloom hiring, obviously, because that was his role to make that hiring. But then you had John Mozeliak, who was kind of handling that discussion about the hiring the other day, because those moves are going to be things that impact Bloom more than it does with Mozeliak,
exactly,
obviously.
The future, yeah.
I kind of a lot of doom and gloom in that visit with John.
I know.
I actually am looking forward to seeing young players. And I'm looking at it from a different point of view. They've tried the last couple of years. It didn't work out. You brought in Gibson. You brought in Lynn. You tried to go free agency with some other players. I think if you're upfront with the fans and say, look, it's a couple of years and we're going to try to restock the farm system, develop these players properly, I do think fans, as tough as it might be, I do think fans would accept that and say, I'm okay with it, as long as we know that moving forward there's going to be an influx of talent that comes through the minor league system, and then hopefully you're looking at it from an organizational standpoint, not only developing them and making sure they're major league players, but then keeping them. And that's the core of your team moving forward.
Is there a time during Cardinals history that you guys can think of that would be a similar comp to maybe what we're seeing when we're talking about this rebuild, retool with the Cardinals organization?
It was when August Bush III took over the franchise after Gussie died. 1990, they plug in Zeal, they plug in Pagnazzi, they plug in Gilkey, Langford, Jordan. Ozzie was here, and Ozzie was the centerpiece of that team. At one point, you brought in Greg Jeffries to play first base. Alisea played second. So that was the only other time in my lifetime where the Cardinals have gone almost exclusively youth. But even still, they had the stalwart in Ozzie.
Yeah, and I was thinking like the late 90s going into 2000, it was just a different era where you could trade assets or perceived assets and get top-end major league players. And to do that now, it just costs you too much in assets, which are players, and money to retain those players. It doesn't happen that way anymore, because the number one thing that you can have in baseball, clearly money is something that everybody wants, and you could be the Yankees or the Dodgers and outspend everybody, but you got to have players. You got to have young players, and it's the number one thing that everybody's looking for in baseball, and they hold on to those.
That's Dan, that's Brooke, I'm Randy, and coming up next, we've got Take It or Leave It. Get your text in, 314-399-9646, 314-399.
Yo-ho.
Yo-ho. There's Dan's Yo-ho on
Yes,
101 ESPN.
say something. We'll put it out there. If you like it, you can take it. If you don't, send it right back.
Get your text into 314-399-9646 and give us your take it or leave it.
Brought to you by Gloria Lou Realty. Visit GloriaHasTheBuyers.com and start packing.
That's my final offer. Take it or leave it.
Time for Take It or Leave It here on 101 ESPN. Okay, kids, in the last week, Amari Cooper has been traded from the Browns to the Bills, Devontae Adams from the Raiders to the Jets, and now, yesterday, DeAndre Hopkins from the Titans to the Chiefs. Take it or leave it. Hopkins is the most impactful wide receiver acquisition of those three.
Ooh, yeah, you're going to the Chiefs, who are undefeated. I like the Amari Cooper one, though, a lot.
Scored a touchdown and didn't know the place.
I'm going with DeAndre Hopkins. I think that when you go to a team that, now they have Worthy. I love watching him play. They got Kelsey. Love watching him play. They can run the football. They've shown that. But when you put them in a system with Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes, they're going to get the best out of you.
They apparently have a play that at the end of the play call in the huddle, it's just get open. And DeAndre Hopkins does that pretty well.
He really does. I might leave it just because I'm going to go with Amari Cooper will make the most impact for the Bills.
Okay.
So take it or leave it, guys. We talked about Brady Cook. I still think that maybe Eli Drinkwitz is kind of pulling our strings a little bit about some quarterback controversy going into the weekend. Of course, he's dealing with that injury, so you can't fake that. But take it or leave it, Brady Cook will play the entire game this weekend.
I'm going to leave it.
I noticed I said entire game
I know.
there.
Yeah, I'm going to leave it.
Oh, I'm going to take it. The way that this kid, you can't get him off the field. Hell, he has to go to a hospital, then comes back. So I think he starts. I think he plays, and hopefully the line holds up and he doesn't get destroyed back there.
Apparently, he had to take a shot to come back, and you don't want to.
What?
Yeah.
No way.
You don't want to put him in a position where he could cause permanent injury to the ankle.
Take it or leave it. Rob Manfred says the automatic strike zone is within the next 4 years. Should a challenge on a check swing be a part of that? Take it or leave it.
Ooh, I'll take it, yes.
I'll take that, yeah.
I think it should be, too. It'd be very quick. You could look at it. They've got the camera angle. I've seen this now in, I think it's the Arizona Fall League that's doing it. I actually saw a video the other day where the hitter stepped out of the box, like tapped his helmet on top of his head and said, no, I want to challenge that. And they went back and reviewed it, and it got overturned.
And by the way, the umpires are amazingly good at that.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
I think they're amazingly good at what they do.
They really are.
It's just that video has, I guess, shined a light on their missed calls. But the majority of the time, man, these guys, they nail it. They're very, very good at what they do.
All right.
Barring a couple of them.
Yeah, exactly. And C.B. Bucknor now. Thank goodness Angel is gone. Best thing to happen during the 2025 season, Angel Hernandez retiring.
Take it or leave it. May take that.
Yeah, I'll take it. Matthew, what do you got for us?
Take it or leave it. The Cardinals are the new Pirates and Cincinnati Reds.
Take it.
Jesus.
No, don't say that.
That's where we're headed.
I'm going to leave it.
I want to be optimistic.
Whoa.
I want to be optimistic, too.
The Cardinals do pay their young players.
Well, they have historically.
Oh, Jesus.
Can we please go more the Guardians way rather than the Rays way?
And here's the thing. The Guardians trade Corey Kluber and they get Clase back, right? They trade Lindor and they get Rosario and the other second baseman back. But Rosario wound up playing center field. When the Guardians have traded their good players, they've gotten good players back in return generally, too.
Which is the key.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to, and that's scouting other teams, understanding their farm systems, being able to understand that maybe that's always the interesting part to me across the board in Major League Baseball is when a team makes a trade and you get some guy that's a no-name guy, you have no idea who it is, but the team identifies that if they get in your system, they unlock them.
Yeah.
They find a way to make them a better player. I think another thing that's interesting this year is looking at Burleson, looking at Donovan, looking at Mason Wynn, and do you advance their careers here in St. Louis by giving them contracts? It doesn't have to be long-term, but maybe buying out a year or two of free agency.
The bridge contract, right?
Exactly.
Jake Neighbors just got. No doubt about it.
Take it or leave it. Jason Tatum's going to win the MVP.
Take it.
I will take it. Do you feel like he's on a revenge tour right now? Because obviously they won the championship, but the way the things went during the Olympics, I feel like that's something that's really going to drive him this season.
That's why I'm going to leave it. He can't even get minutes on the Olympics. Guy's going to win the MVP? I don't know.
No, that's what I'm saying. He's trying to prove him wrong.
And not winning MVP in the finals, too, I think probably is driving him.
Yes.
You guys were talking about salaries, and we were talking about this yesterday in the NBA. I think Tatum might be $1 billion player before it's all said and done. He may make $1 billion in salary.
I can see that.
Yeah, I can.
It's crazy to me.
What's he got? Like he just signed for $350, right? Something like that.
Yep. And he's young.
Yeah.
He's going to have maybe 2 more bites at the apple. Yeah. That takes him to $1 billion in earnings, which is incredible.
Wonder how much he's making off of endorsements too, because he's everywhere.
Yeah,
everywhere.
True. Yeah, he's doing
and
well.
And Deuce is also doing a lot of stuff too.
Yeah, he is. It's pretty cool.
Take it or leave it. If Mizzou and Illinois are both out of the playoffs, that needs to be a bowl game.
Take it. Yes. Let's get started on this this new rivalry. I think don't they play next year? I think their new 4-year home and home starts next year. So yeah, let's get started on this.
We keep getting texts. I feel like every single day. I don't know if I saw one today or not about who is the better team, Mizzou or Illinois.
I think it'll be a really good game.
I think we'll find out more about Illinois this weekend at Oregon.
Yeah.
Mizzou and Oregon are playing really college football playoff type implications this weekend. They're one of like 10 or 11 games that have huge implications in the college football playoffs. So Illinois and number 1 Oregon, and then Mizzou going to Alabama. Going to be tough for the local teams.
Fun weekend.
When we said it, I felt like we were wrong, and we were. 2026 is when it was.
Okay, good. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Randy.
And thanks for your text. We do appreciate it. Coming up, how much difference can the Cardinals' changes for this offseason make in their ability to win next year? That's next on 101 ESPN. Hey guys, if you're feeling like you've lost your edge, you need to learn about Mentality. If your energy and focus and drive isn't what it used to be, it's time to get back on track with Mentality Health, your local experts in testosterone replacement therapy. You can find their clinics in Chesterfield or South County, and you can start today by going to lowtusa.com. That's lowtusa.com, your first step to reclaiming your vitality. And when you enter the promo code RISE, when you go to lowtusa.com, it will help us out because they want to know where their people are coming from. And with the word RISE, when you enter their site, that tells them that you're from 101 ESPN. It's physician-guided TRT. Unlike online-only services, Mentality offers in-person consultations with board-certified physicians who've treated over 25,000 guys in the St. Louis area and made their lives better. You can make your life better, too. Go to lowtusa.com, use the promo code RISE, and get back in the game by making your appointment at one of the clinics for Mentality.
A fresh perspective on the day's top stories. It's the Opening Drive's Fresh Take.
It is painful. It's rough. I mean, there are going to be a lot of nights where they get their brains beat in. And there's no guarantee that just because you go through this process that you're going to win in 2 years or 3 years or 4 years. Who knows? A lot of people think, okay, we've been bad for 2 years, now we'll be good. There's no guarantee there when you go through this process.
That's MLB.com's John Denton with us last hour here on 101 ESPN. It's 8:09. Time check brought to you by Clarkson Jewelers, an officially licensed Rolex jeweler. Brooke Grimsley, Danny Mac, Randy Carricker, and the Cardinals, over the course of the next year or two, are probably going to divest themselves of most of their veterans. They will go younger. They will go less expensive. I want to start with this. I don't think the Cardinals will be better in 2025. They might be an 83-win team. That might be their max. But I am more intrigued by a young, bad team than an old, mediocre team. And the Cardinals, I think, were the 5th oldest team in baseball this year and won 83 games.
Well, because remember, the emphasis last offseason was bringing in that veteran leadership. And so now we're going from veteran leadership to ushering in this new wave, this new youth movement within the Cardinals organization. If you're looking at moves to the question of what will actually impact things for the Major League team this coming season, I think you have to look at the coaching staff hires. So you have John Jay coming in, taking over for Willie McGee. Willie McGee, I feel like that's a huge loss to the coaching staff because he is just a wealth of knowledge. Luckily, he will still be around within the organization. But I'm looking at Brant Brown and their new hitting coach. Now, we've discussed his resume, and it is interesting. He worked with the Dodgers. He worked with the Marlins. But then that big part of his resume that a lot of people are focusing on is his time with the Mariners, because obviously the Mariners were not a team who were great offensively, and that's a big concern when you're talking about you're also looking at player development at the Major League side of things too for this club for next season and how well they can improve offensively. Does that portion of his resume concern you? How much do you fault Brant Brown for the Mariners' struggles offensively?
Zero. You can't spend spring training in 2 months with the team and have that dramatic of an effect on the team. And it should be noted that the Mariners didn't get any better. They had a bad offense all season long.
I think the other thing, too, is you got to have the horses. I don't care if it's me or Brant Brown or Babe Ruth coming in that dugout. You got to have players. And so the question was the Cardinals making changes in the front office and coaching staff. How much of a difference can those changes make with the on-field product? And I think that the hitting coach specifically can help young players. But I think there's a ceiling to that, and it's incumbent on the player to be a major league type player. You can sit there and teach all you want, but then it's up to the individual to take in some of that guidance. I said some, not all, and use it as a tool and then become better as a player. So you got to have talent. I mean, this is what it comes down to. You got to have talent.
And here's one thing about a move like the move that the Mariners made. If Julio Rodriguez reverts to his rookie form, Brant Brown probably doesn't lose his job. If he's hitting like he did as a rookie in April and May, that one guy probably saves Brant Brown's job. I'm not saying Brant Brown is great. I'm just saying that in the 6 weeks of spring training and then April and May, it's almost impossible for a hitting coach to have a dramatic effect.
Is a hitting coach going to have that much of an effect on Nolan Arenado?
Not now, no.
Wilson Contreras?
No.
It's probably not going to happen. Now, with the young kids that come through, that I think can have a difference. I mean, when you talk about veterans that have been there and done it for a long, long time, there's things that maybe a hitting coach can pick up and say, hey, you're doing this, and this is what we need to get out of, and let's take a look at the video, and this is where you're most comfortable, and we're not seeing that. Those kind of things happen with approach, I think, with young players and getting that type of tutelage at the major league level, even though you would hope that wouldn't have to happen at the major league level, but it does now all the time. I do think that can make an impact on young players. When
you're looking at the young players, too, obviously you know of the struggles we all do, of Nolan Gorman, Jordan Walker, some of the others who had to go back to the minor leagues at times during this past season. And Nolan Gorman, he finished out the season in the minor leagues. So if you, in a perfect world, both of those players, Jordan Walker and Nolan Gorman, would be able to bounce back. But just theoretically, if we're looking at next season and we're talking about trying to get some wins, trying to have things turn around maybe offensively, who do you think the Cardinals need to have the biggest turnaround, Nolan Gorman or Jordan Walker next season?
How about both?
I would say, but turn around. I think Gorman needs to get back to that 27 home run power, because we don't know what Jordan Walker is at the major league level. We think we know, but as in deference to Jim Mora, you think you know, but you don't know. You don't know, and you will never know. Well, we hopefully will know at some point. But everybody in the world projected Jordan Walker to be a star. But we don't have a reference point to the major league level. At least we do with Gorman.
You got to unlock those two guys.
Yeah.
If you're going to have success next year and try to win and be competitive in the division, then those are the two keys. You know what you got in the veterans and whomever stays here with the Cardinals, but those two guys need to be unlocked to take them to a different level to have a shot.
And I could see the Cardinals being a league average offense next year. The league average this past season was 4.39 runs a game for a major league team. The Cardinals averaged 4.15. Obviously, you're going to replace Goldie. You hope you have a cent. So I'm not predicting it, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Cardinals were able to hit league average and provide league average runs. But if they have a starting rotation minus Sonny Gray, let's say their starting rotation is Michaelis, Matz, Fetty, McGreevy, Palante. I think it's going to be difficult for the Cardinals to have a league average starting rotation.
Well, and then you also wonder, too, who will be in your bullpen. Will Ryan Helsley be there or will he not? Because he saved their butts so many times this past season.
I think the other thing, too, that a hitting coach can help in this particular situation is approach with runners in scoring position. I do think that that can have an impact on what are we trying to do? What are you looking for? How are we going to do this? Think through the at-bat a little bit. I think that would help. They were 229, the average with runners in scoring position last year. That's 27th in baseball. And so when you look at why they lost some games, I mean, that's a big factor. They just did not come through with runners in scoring position.
I think it was the last homestand of the season, talked to several coaches and the skipper, and everybody agrees that because these are talented hitters, the entire problem with hitters in scoring position, runners in scoring position, was approach. And Brad Brown is an approach guy. You need to approach certain situations. Hopefully he can get through to those players. That's Dan, that's Brooke, I'm Randy, and that's today's Fresh Take on 101 ESPN. Coming up next, the Hall of Famer Bernie Federko as the Blues get ready to take on Craig Berube and the Maple Leafs tonight in Toronto. Hey, it's Randy, and if you're considering selling your home, you need a reliable and experienced and trusted agent. Take it from me and get to know St. Louis real estate expert. Her name is Gloria Liu, and she's with Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. And here's why you should call, because she gives you options. If you want to sell immediately, she's got options for you to sell right away. And she'll guarantee eventually that you will sell your home at your price and your time frame, or she'll buy it herself, and that's guaranteed in writing. And she can set it up so that you can stretch things out, that if you want to stay in your home for a while, you can do that too. You can learn everything you need to know. Call up Gloria Liu, 314-325-6888. Tell her what you want to do. Tell her how quickly you want to sell. Tell her what you're looking for in your next purchase. Maybe you'll be able to stay in your home for 12 months. You never know. 314-325-6888. Or you can visit Gloria on the web at gloriahasthebuyers.com. She is St. Louis local real estate authority with 20 years of experience, hundreds of homes sold in just the last 12 months alone. The only agent I'd trust to sell my home. Now, gloriahasthebuyers.com is the place to go to learn about price and possession date. As always, Gloria and seller must agree on price and possession date. To learn more, visit gloriahasthebuyers.com.
talking everything St. Louis Blues as we head into the Blues booth on 101 ESPN. Presented by Boardwalk Hardwood Floors. Find your perfect new floor at boardwalkhardwood.com.
Dan McLaughlin, Randy Carricker in the opening drive on 101 ESPN, and we head to the celebrity line, and the Hall of Famer Bernie Federko joins us on Thursday morning. Bernie, good morning. How you doing?
Good, Randy. Thank you.
What was your reaction to your former teammate and line mate Wayne Babich being named to the Blues Hall of Fame?
I'm very excited for him. He was one of those great guys, that had a lot of success here. I mean, the first guy to ever score 50 goals for the Blues, and unfortunately, I think it was a shoulder injury that really slowed him down. I think that if he would never had that shoulder injury, I think that he would have been around for a long time, and he would have scored a lot of goals in this league. So I talked to him about it, and he's very excited and can't wait to get back into St. Louis here for the award in January.
Bernie, he had that 54-goal season in 80-81, so a lot of people listening aren't aware or never got a chance to see Wayne Babich play. What sort of a goal scorer was he?
Well, he was a power forward. I mean, he's one of those guys that, was not afraid to drop the gloves. He was a big, tough guy. In fact, that's how he got hurt. I mean, he got jumped in a preseason game, and we actually against the Winnipeg Jets at the time. We were at training camp in Regina and had an exhibition game against the Jets, and Jimmy Mann fought him, and that's where he hurt his shoulder. But he was a tough-nosed, hard-nosed guy that went hard to the net and could shoot it really hard. Was not a finesse guy by any means. He was one of those power forwards that he was going to, the puck, I think, went through the goalies more times than it went into the corners. He just overpowered players or goaltenders with his shot. So, but a great guy and a great teammate and very deserved.
Bernie, obviously some tough news for the Blues yesterday. They announced that Robert Thomas will miss at least 6 weeks. He'll be reevaluated in 6 weeks with a fractured ankle. How huge of a loss is this for the Blues?
Well, that's kind of a irreplaceable person. I mean, Robert is really the nucleus of this hockey club right now. I mean, he's been having a great start. He's really good on the 200-foot game. He's not only killing penalties, power play. He's winning more faceoffs than anybody in the league right now. So it's going to be a tough blow. There's no question. You lose a guy of that caliber, you can't replace it. But someone's going to have to step up. I think the good news is that Sundqvist comes back. There's a couple of guys that can play center ice. Obviously, I think they're going to use Holloway a little bit up the middle. I mean, Buchnevich is still an experiment that is going on with up the middle too, playing center. So it puts obviously a little bit of pressure on the rest of the guys on this hockey club, but hopefully Robert will be able to recover quickly, and hopefully there's not going to be any issues with ligaments or anything after a broken ankle coming back in 6 weeks, and hopefully he'll be able to come back as soon as possible, because there's no question that he's going to be really hard to replace.
Bernie, you have a keen eye for talent and have been watching this game and playing this game all your life. I'm curious just what you thought of the start for Broberg and just how good he looks on the ice and wearing that blue note.
Yeah, Danny, I've been really impressed with him. I mean, I didn't know that much about him. I don't think anybody in the league really knew that much about him, maybe except the Oilers. And he's been very, very impressive. I mean, he's smooth. First of all, he's a big man, and he's got a great stride. I think his hockey sense is what we didn't know that he had that much. I mean, I'm not saying nothing against him because we just didn't know. But I think he's so poised in every situation. I mean, he knows defensively what he has to do, and I know that just watching him, he knows when to step up with the play. He knows up to join the rush. He's made a couple of great passes, soft passes, great hands as well. So I've been very, very impressed. I mean, obviously it's a small sample through 7 games now, but when you see what he's been able to do and the way he makes it look so easy, I think that he's going to have a heck of a future, and I think he's going to be a really, really good player for a long time.
Bernie Federko with us on 101 ESPN. Bernie, the Blues take on their Stanley Cup winning former coach Craig Berube tonight in Toronto. I'm always intrigued, and I don't think we've ever asked you why the shelf life of NHL coaches is as short as it is. Why do coaches apparently lose the ear of their teams?
You know, Randy, what's funny, I think it's kind of almost the era that we're in right now. I think maybe it's the salary cap era where coaches are so much easier to replace than players. Players are making so much money now. The cap issue is there, and you know, when you have you put together a team, you kind of keep it together. You know, with the finances, and when a coach kind of runs out of when the players stop listening to the coach, or I don't want to say stop listening, when they don't maybe get the message, they don't hear it. It seems to be it's a lot easier just to move the coach and bring someone else and try to get a new voice to talk to the players and to get them motivated how to play the game. So, I mean, I really don't have an answer for that, but that's kind of what my thoughts are, is that it's just sometimes easier to replace the coach. And I think for the most part it is. And it's unfortunate for the coaches, but it seems that the way the league is that once you're in as a coach in this league, you may not be on that same team for a while, but you're going to keep you're going to keep coming back somewhere else. I mean, they always come back to another team. So, Chief's a really good coach, and I think he's going to do a really good job in Toronto. But it was just, I guess, the voice was just not being heard anymore, and Doug Armstrong felt that the need was made to make the change.
Based off of practice yesterday and even the comments from Drew Bannister, it seems like Scott Perunovich is expected to make his season debut against Toronto. What are you expecting to see from him? Also notable, he ran the second power play unit instead of Philip Broberg.
Well, that's what he has to do. I mean, he has to really establish himself as a power play specialist. I mean, I think that winning the Hobie Baker, I mean, he's a very offensively talented young defenseman, and he really has not really proven himself, or really maybe not got the chance yet. I mean, he's been hurt so many times, but I think he's probably running out of chances to establish himself. And I think if he gets that opportunity tonight, I think that he's got to, first of all, shoot the puck more. I think he's got to be a little more controlled on the offensive. I mean, I know he's been working hard on his defensive play, but I think that he was drafted, obviously, as a scorer, as an offensive guy, and I think that's kind of where he has to establish himself.
What's it like being a coach in Toronto, you think, Bernie, with the throng of media that's all over you? What do you think that's been like for Craig Berube?
You know, Danny, when I was playing, I mean, I talked to many of the guys that were played in Toronto, and it's a great place to be when things are going well.
I bet.
And for Chief, you know what? I think it's going to be really, really a test for him, because, I mean, here in St. Louis, you got 3 or 4 reporters you're going to talk to after a game or before the game, and there's probably 25 or 30. So if things are going well, I think it's going to be a lot of fun for him. And obviously the Leafs have not won a Stanley Cup since 1967, so there's a lot of pressure on that team each and every night, and obviously there's more and more pressure on the coaches. So I think that he'll enjoy it as they're successful, but I think if they go through some tough times, I think it's going to be a very, very difficult place to be. But I think that Chief's got a great attitude. I mean, he's always been open with the press. He's always been open with everything, and I think that he'll do a really good job there. But I think it's going to be very much more difficult than it was when he was coaching here.
Bernie Federko, thanks so much for the time. We appreciate it, and we'll be tuned in tonight on FanDuel Sports Network for your coverage pregame of the Blues and the Leafs.
Thanks, guys. You guys have a great day.
You too. Thank you, sir. That's the Hall of Famer, Bernie Federko, on the opening drive on 101 ESPN. Coming up, we've got the fight, and we need a fighter. If you text in 314-399-9646, 314-399-YO-HO, with your name and the word fight, maybe Matthew will pick you to fight me next on 101 ESPN.
This is Rocky with your Sports Center update, brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling. Yesterday, some bad news for the St. Louis Blues as Robert Thomas is going to miss 6 weeks with a fractured ankle. Some good news, he will not be missing his hits here on the opening drive as he'll continue to join the show weekly. The Blues are back in action as they face off against the Maple Leafs tonight. 6 p.m. puck drop, 5 p.m. pregame show right here on your home for the St. Louis Blues, 101 ESPN. If you want to hear more Blues talk, we talked it over with Bernie Federko. You'll be able to catch that on our Dobbs Tire and Auto Center's podcast later on today. And tonight, week 8 in the NFL season kicks off as Vikings and Rams go at it for Thursday Night Football. That is your Sports Center update, brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling, an independent Megas and heating and air conditioning dealer.
Welcome to the fight. In the red corner, Average Joe Listener. And in the blue corner, the undisputed king of morning drive. Please welcome Randy Carricker.
Welcome back to the opening drive. Brooke, Dan, Randy, and Rockio here, and it is time for the fight. And our fighter this morning is Brendan. Brendan, how are you doing?
I am doing phenomenal. I have been waiting for this moment my whole life, been listening for a while and trying to get on. I'm pumped.
Oh, man, I love this. You're bringing a lot of energy this morning. You said you've been waiting for this your entire life?
My entire life. I didn't know it most of my life, but I have been, yes.
You've been working up towards this moment. So this is your first time facing Randy in the fight.
It is. It is. Not. I've fought him virtually in my car a lot, but this is the first time over the phone.
And how have you done in those fights?
Oh, Dan, it's not been pretty. But some of the times I've won, but the majority has been bad.
So you've been thinking about this all your life. You probably need to get some other things to do in your life.
Oh, Randy.
I'm just saying.
What else is there to do outside of St. Louis sports? Obviously?
That's right. All right, good answer.
It's
Brendan,
all
good luck.
leading up. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, you ready for question number 1, Brendan?
I am, yes.
Okay, here we go. Tomorrow's Game 1 starter for the Dodgers, Jack Flaherty, was one of 2 first-round selections by the Cardinals in his draft year. Which other 2024 playoff pitcher was the other Cardinals first-rounder in that same draft? Your options are Adam Ottavino, Michael Wacha, or Luke Weaver.
I am going to go with Luke Weaver.
Final answer?
Yes.
Only 4 full-time relief pitchers have won the World Series MVP. 2 of them were Yankees in the 90s. Mariano Rivera took home the award in 1999. But who was the MVP for the Yankees in 1996? Was it John Wetland, Bob Wickman, or Dave Righetti?
Dan, you always say just answer with confidence, so I'm going to say B. I think that was Bob Wickman.
Okay, that's B. And so you're doing this with conviction, and I like that. On to question 3 we go.
All right, Yankees and Dodgers is the most common World Series matchup in Major League Baseball history, with this year being the 12th edition. Who is the next most common World Series opponent for the Yankees facing off 7 series against the Bronx Bombers? Is it the Cardinals, the Braves, or the Giants?
I will go with, I know the Cardinals have played a couple of times, but I don't know that would be the top. Oh, I'm going to go with the Braves, sustaining their entire franchise.
Okay, question 4. Who is the only person to be selected in the draft by the NFL, NBA, and Major League Baseball drafts? Was it Dave Winfield, Danny Ainge, or Dave DeBusschere?
Let's go with Dave Winfield. Final answer.
All right, let me go grab Randall.
How are you feeling, Brendan?
I've been waiting for this for a while, too, and I will say, just like many people before me, not great.
You kind of pulled like a little Mosaic there with a not great.
Just a little bit. Sure,
Well,
sure.
I like the energy that you have.
Not great.
There it is.
There it is.
Yes.
That's it.
You had a lot of energy this morning, so I think that works in your favor. But here comes in Randy Carricker right now. I do not see any grapes in sight.
Grapes
I know
are done.
he left with grapes.
Yeah, I destroyed all the grapes. Yep, there are no grapes left.
And you have a Diet Coke today.
It was just there.
It was just there, not your first usual option.
No, or
Usually
second,
you have Mountain
or
Dew.
third, Yeah.
Usually that powers you.
It's that's a pretty good power source.
It is. Say hi to Brendan, Randy.
Brendan, good morning. How you doing?
I am doing great. I had some grapes too, so watch out.
Oh.
Randy, I sat by you when you gave your big speech at the Peabody to the Rams, and it was one of the most moving moments of my life. So I'm honored to be here with you today.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Little did we know that we were involved in a dog and pony show, but I appreciate your support.
Brendan's
you.
also been waiting for this his entire life. He said that this morning.
Welcome to the show. It's great to have you with us. And thanks for listening.
Okay, you ready
Absolutely.
for question number 1?
Ready.
Tomorrow's Game 1 starter for the Dodgers, Jack Flaherty, was one of 2 first-round selections by the Cardinals in his draft year. Which other 2024 playoff pitcher was the other Cardinals first-rounder in that same draft?
2024 playoff pitcher. It would seem like Luke Weaver would be the logical choice here. I'm just going to run through the playoff teams quickly. I don't know that we had another one. We obviously had Lane Thomas. We had Luke Weaver. The Tigers, I don't think, had a former Cardinal pitcher. Dodgers, Mets didn't. Padres didn't. Who am I leaving out here? Brewers did not. So I'll just go with Luke Weaver and hope.
Have you thought about throwing the fight, Randy, because Brendan is such a good guy?
I have, yeah. The problem is I don't know how many Brendan got right. Okay. We want to turn in good competitive radio, too.
Oh, yeah. You got to do that.
Yeah.
Dan, I feel like you might be rooting for him a little bit.
I'm, Brendan is a cool dude.
He is.
He had a lot of nice things to say about you. He loves the show.
Very nice, yes.
He said this is a dream come true to be a part of the fight.
Okay, let me work on this then.
No, be competitive, Randall. All right, only 4 full-time relief pitchers have won the World Series MVP. 2 of them were Yankees in the 90s. Mariano Rivera took home the award in 1999. But who is the MVP for the Yankees in 96?
I'll go with John Wetland, 96, left after 96. And then Mariano Rivera took over in 97. Didn't get off to a great start either.
No, he didn't.
Got to be patient.
On to question number 3.
Yankees-Dodgers is the most common World Series matchup in Major League Baseball history, with this year being the 12th edition. Who is the next most common World Series opponent for the Yankees, facing off in 7 series against the Bronx Bombers?
7 series against the Bronx Bombers. It's either going to be the Cardinals or the Giants. And I'm going to go with the Giants here. The Cardinals, let's see. 1, 2, 3. See, the problem with the Cardinals is they haven't had one since 1964. So I'm going to go with the New York Giants.
Final answer?
Yeah.
Question 4.
Okay.
Who is the only person to be selected in the draft by the NFL, NBA, and Major League Baseball?
Ooh, that's a lot of things.
Pretty good athlete.
NBA, NFL, Major League Baseball. I am going to go with one Dave Winfield, former Padre and Junkie, derisively referred to by George Steinbrenner as Mr. Bay.
Yes, he was.
I'm going to go with Dave Winfield, Dan.
And didn't old George stick some people on Dave to find out some things away from the ballpark?
That got him suspended, yeah.
Yes, it did. Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right, Matthew.
We have a winner in today's fight. Bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, does Brendan walk away with his first ever win in his first ever try against Randy Carricker? Or does Randy Carricker, who's already shaking his head, take home another victory in this week's edition of The Fight? Ring that bell!
Go crazy, folks! Go crazy!
The winner and still champion of the fight, Randy Carricker.
Just win, baby. Rude is what it is. I'm sorry, Brendan. Randy Carricker.
Oh, man.
Here we go. Now, you need to cut this. Brendan's a good dude.
But he is giving Brendan the full experience.
Well, not the Blazing Saddles one, Randy. All right, Brendan, I'm sorry. Randy Carricker hit the jack. He beat you 4-2 in today's fight.
That's all right. That's hilarious. That's offensive, but I will live. I will try and be back at some point.
Thank you so much, Brendan.
We thank you for listening, and you're a great guy. Thanks for the compliments at the outset, and, I wasn't here listening to everything that you said, and we do appreciate you very much, Brendan. Thanks so much.
Absolutely, guys. Have a great weekend.
You too. Take care.
Let's go through the questions and answers. Tomorrow's game one starter for the Dodgers, Jack Flaherty, was one of 2 first-round selections by the Cardinals in this draft year. The other 2024 playoff pitcher who was the Cardinals' first-rounder in that same draft, that was the 2014 first round. There's a very good chance that multiple players from the Cardinals' first-round selection that year win World Series games because Luke Weaver was the other first-round pick for the Cardinals. Luke Weaver, Jack Flaherty, both pitching in this year's World Series, both first-round picks for the Cardinals in 2014.
Not bad.
Only 4 full-time relief pitchers have won the World Series MVP, and it was, in fact, Mariano in 1999 and John Wetland were the 2 Yankees who took home the World Series MVP as relief pitchers in the 90s. Yankees-Dodgers is the most common World Series matchup in Major League Baseball history. This is the 12th time they have faced off. It is, in fact, the Giants who have faced off against them 7 times. The Cardinals and Yankees faced off 5 times. The Braves, in their different iterations in different cities, have faced off twice each in those different cities for a total of 4 times against the Yankees. Randy, you correctly pointed out the last time the Cardinals faced off against the Yankees was 1964. When was the last time the Yankees faced off against the Giants?
That's what I'm thinking. It was, I don't think the San Francisco Giants, have they faced off against maybe 1962? Stu Miller?
Yep, there it is. Is 7 times between 1900 and 1962 did they play the Giants. They haven't played them since 1962. Since 1900 to 1964, they played the Cardinals 5 times, have not played them a single time since.
Honestly, what's wrong with you? How do you know 62 and Stu Miller?
Little left-hander for the Giants.
Yes, I do remember the name.
Really good. 62 and Stu.
Come on, man.
Really good.
He said, what's wrong with
Why does
you?
anybody even call into this thing?
By the way, 62 World Series is Yankees Giants, 63 is Yankees Dodgers, 64 is Yankees Cardinals. Just an insane run in the early 60s there. And he was the only person to be selected in the draft by the NFL, the NBA, and Major League Baseball. He didn't even play college football, but being 6'6", 220 made Dave Winfield pretty, attractive to NFL scouts at the time. And he was drafted in all 3 of those leagues, the only person to ever pull off that feat. 6'6", 220-pound Dave Winfield, Padre, Yankee, World Series winner in 1992. Dave Winfield is your answer. 4 for 4 for Randy Carricker today. Again, Brendan, thank you so much for joining the fight and joining the show.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
you.
Okay,
Good
so
job,
Stu
Randy.
Miller, this didn't happen in the World Series. This happened in the All-Star game. He was, and I don't know if he still is, but he was listed at 5'11" and 165 pounds. And the All-Star game is at Candlestick Park, and a big gust of wind popped up and blew Stu Miller off the mound. You can Google it. It's on the
my
Google. Stu Miller literally blown off the mound during the All-Star game.
Wow.
Here's a little World Series stat you might want to just keep in your feather cap for the future. The Yankees have played 12 different National League teams in the World Series.
Wow, that's a good one. We should use that next week when the World Series is going on 12. I'll keep that in mind. Coming up next here on 101 ESPN, they said, what? It's coming your way on the opening drive.
Underdog Fantasy is the place to play if you're a sports fan looking to win money while watching sports. And this week is the best one because all the sports are going right now. The NFL kicks off Week 8 tonight. You got more NBA games. Of course, the Blues are going to be back in action. Of course, the World Series starts tomorrow. A perfect week for a little bit of action on Underdog Fantasy. With their champs game, you can win money just by making entries on your favorite players and competing against other underdog players. You can win up to 1,000 times your money just by choosing higher or lower on basic stats. For example, if we're going to go with the NBA entries that I'm going to go with today, I'm picking higher or lower on points, rebounds, and assists combined numbers there. And that's what we're going to do. Let's build an entry for today's NBA run. Jason Tatum higher than 43.5 points. Victor Wembanyama higher than 42.5 points, rebounds, and assists. And Luka Doncic higher than 48.5 points, rebounds, and assists. We're going to go higher on all those three big names, going higher on their points, rebounds, and assists for our NBA entry today. And this season, Underdog will be running a special promo or bonus almost every single day, like Profit Boost, to pump up your winnings in just a tap when you apply the boost to eligible entries. That's what I did to my entry today. Discounts where you'll get a adjusted projection on certain player stats to give you a better shot at a big W, and free picks, which are basically a sure thing. Player just has to get higher than 0.5 yards or points or rebounds for that selection to win. Plus, all new users get a free pick, and it's currently Boosttober from now until October 27th, the rest of this week. You can boost your profit on all NBA entries by 20%. Underdog is literally giving you unlimited profit boosts to make basketball entries. Download the app, sign up with my promo code ROCC, and deposit now to get up to $1,000 in bonus cash instantly. That's promo code ROCC, and again, it's coming with those promos as well. Must be 18 plus and present to say where Online Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Consumers to play. Coordinator or gambler. Visit www.ncpgambling.org.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
What you talking about?
What the hell are you talking about?
What you talking about?
Do you actually listen to yourself when you speak, or do you find you drift in and out?
What you talking about?
Bro, I'm out, man.
Brooke, Dan, Randy, and Rocchio here, and it is time for They Said What? So, as we know, the Yankees will play their first World Series game in 15 years, facing off against the Dodgers starting tomorrow. And at least one party involved here, Yankees general manager Brian Cashman, is doing his part in the run-up to Game 1 to remind people that New York's World Series drought comes with an asterisk stemming from the Astros sign-stealing scandal. Here's Cashman on the MLB Network's High Heat with Mad Dog yesterday.
Give me your thoughts here of finally getting back and winning a pennant after a 15-year, I don't want to say drought, that's not fair, but you understand what I'm saying with the gap. How about winning a pennant? How does that mean to you? Let me hear.
It means a lot, and I hate the 15-year thing because it completely forgets and discounts that some other organization cheated us when we were all the way in the end. You know, if you knew what was going on, I don't think they would be advancing at that during that time thing. I think we would have been advancing. So I hate that 15-year thing because I don't think it accurately reflects history.
Of course, Cashman was referencing 2017, the ALCS, in which the Yankees lost in 7 games to the Astros. So we are away from the sign-stealing scandal. Of course, they were punished for that, but it's not something that is completely out of the memory of Brian Cashman. Was he right or wrong in what he said there?
He was right. Now, I wish he would have named Houston. Why not just name drop the Astros? That'd be easy. But yes, they lost in 7 games, and it was verified that the Astros did indeed cheat. So I can see totally where he's coming from. That being said, the facts of the matter are what the facts of the matter are. It's not unlike the whole steroid thing. Barry Bonds' balls all went over the fence. The Astros, you still look up at the scoreboard, you still look at Baseball Reference, and they still won it. And the fact of the matter is, well, he can look at it with his own opinion. The fact of the matter is the Yankees haven't been to or won a World Series since 2009.
It's hard, man. I was thinking about this the other day with the Yankees and the Dodgers, and they spend a ton of money, but still, you know, the Dodgers have won World Series since 1988. One. With all the money that they've spent.
That was a COVID year.
Yeah, and the Mets haven't won since 1986. The Phillies have won 2 World Series since 1883. I mean, we're talking about some of the biggest markets that would normally spend money, and still they're not winning. But he's not right in what he said, or he is right in what he said, excuse me. But I think when it comes to the Yankees, the expectations are so high. The Dodgers' expectations are so high. And so for them, it's a little bit more pressure, I think, than other organizations.
I think also, too, as of note, because a part of this 15-year drought, you have to think of two of the Yankees and the Astros in 2019, too, during the ALCS. But Major League Baseball found no evidence that Houston was stealing signs during that time. And weren't the Yankees involved in a scandal of their own, too?
Yes, they were. There were many allegations, nothing proven or investigated, I don't even believe, by Major League Baseball, like the Astros were proven to have done.
The Jim Crane post-World Series press conference was tough to watch. I mean, if you know what's coming, you're probably going to hit it, or at least have a chance to hit it hard. Mm-hmm. And they knew it was coming. I mean, just it's as simple as that. And, sign stealing and things like that have been around baseball forever. They're still going on right now, and that's why you change signs all the time. But to take it to that level was a little bit much.
I think there's a couple of things that I want to point out here. Number one, Houston did win the final game of that series at L.A., and the Dodgers were up. They had won game one, lost game two, lost game three, and won game four. They could have gone up 3-2 in game five, and they lost 13-12. And our friend Ned Coletti came on one time and talked about how heartbroken he was for Kershaw, because not only does that change the trajectory of the Dodgers and Ned's career as the general manager of the Dodgers, but it changes Clayton Kershaw's postseason trajectory as well. He went 4 2/3 in that game in Houston, allowed 6 runs on 6 hits, and had a magnificent year to that point. So in addition to Cashman having his feelings, I know Ned has his feelings too. So the management people from the two teams that the Astros beat that year took it personally.
Yes, they did.
They really did. From the 314, we have a question here. A-Rod was a Reuter. How can you say anything when he has a title under A-Rod?
Well, that's a great point. That he does. And A-Rod, that was 2009, and A-Rod was there. I don't know if it was definitive that A-Rod was using at that time. I would assume it was. But, yeah, that's a good point.
I don't know if it was known at that time. I don't remember when it broke. And maybe somebody can text in. But here's the thing. I mean, he sat out a year. You had to pay him. You weren't going to trade him. So you move forward in somebody's life and say, yeah, he's had these, problems with steroids, but we're still going to pay him. He's still going to be part of our organization, and that's how they dealt with it.
We also had somebody text in from the 813 about were they punished in regards to what we're talking about with the Astros. Do you think, just looking back, if they were properly punished for their involvement that was proven with the sign stealing scandal?
I think baseball did everything they could. We would have never learned anything unless baseball gave those players anonymity and the ability to speak without repercussions.
What do you think now of A.J. Hinch?
Well, he's proven to be a pretty darn good manager, hasn't he?
Yeah. Agreed. But, there's some people that look back and say, well, he was part of this, so there's a problem with him. Just move forward.
Mm-hmm.
He was, I will give him credit, though. He was the one that tore the TV down in the clubhouse, or in the tunnel between the clubhouse and the dugout.
Does Jeff Luhnow ever get a shot if he wants it in Major League Baseball?
Nope.
I don't think he does either.
No, I think those are all really fair questions. It's interesting that he brought this up again, especially in that discussion, because of course it will never be forgotten, but the way that he discussed it with the 15-year drought, there's other things that you could look at there with that 15-year drought. Is that also kind of a little bit of a distraction, having him just say that right before you get ready for this new World Series, not looking back at the past like that?
I think he's working on his legacy, because he gets ripped in New York the same way Mozeliak gets ripped here. The Yankee fans feel about Brian Cashman the way Cardinal fans feel about John Mozeliak. And I would think that the audience that he's playing to there is the Yankee fans, where he's telling them, hey, don't blame me for 2017. Blame them. We don't have a drought. It's the Astros' fault.
He's had a remarkable career, too.
He has. He's fantastic.
He's been outstanding, and he was there before he was the general manager and did a lot of things behind the scenes. To me, his legacy is perfect. Not perfect. It's been very good.
Yeah,
Put it that way.
Yep.
That was, they said, what?
Let's do it again.
They said, what? I know you kind of missed out. You were
Sorry.
a little bit late to the first iteration of it earlier in the show.
I was reveling in my victory.
You were still enjoying that. You were just replaying it in your head.
I was.
Poor Brendan.
I know. We kind of need justice for Brendan, don't we?
No, I don't think it's justice.
Or bring him back. Bring him back. Bring him back. Bring him back.
If I can win again 4-2, I'm a happy camper.
That's Randy, Dan, and I'm Brooke. Coming up next, we have our Rush Hour Reset here on the opening drive.
Find out at carltoninsurance.net.
The Blues are at Toronto tonight. We've got the action for you at 6 o'clock, pregame at 5 here on your home of the Blues, 101 ESPN. Robert Thomas will not be in the game and won't be in a game for the next 6 weeks or so. He'll be evaluated after 6 weeks. After the Blues revealed yesterday that Thomas suffered a broken ankle, a fractured ankle, in the game against Winnipeg on Tuesday night. So the Blues will be without their best player. Yesterday in practice, Braden Shen was on the number 1 line, and they kept Pavel Buchnevich on the second line. And and then they moved Dylan Holloway to the third-line center position. I'll be interested to see how things play out tonight, especially against a team with two of the best centers in the league in Austin Matthews and John Tavares.
Yeah, that's a pretty tall task after you lose Robert Thomas, is that you have to face the Toronto Maple Leafs and, of course, Craig Berube as well, which I'm sure he'll have extra oomph in that game for him, considering it's his former team. But that's a huge loss, obviously, for the Blues with Robert Thomas, because you really do have that question of who can take over those top-line center roles. We talked about Braden Shin, obviously, as you mentioned, in practice, but is he capable still of doing that at this point of his career? Buchnevich is still kind of an experiment as a center for this team, and I didn't think that he was going to be the long-term answer, but now you're kind of stuck in that position because of the loss of Robert Thomas.
It's 23 minutes a game out the door. That's your power play. That's a key guy that you have on that. You talk about him going against the top lines. 63% clip of face-off wins. That's a problem. It's a huge loss. I mean, we're talking about guys that you cannot afford to lose, and he's probably at the top of the list.
And Dan, you mentioned last year after the season how the Blues pretty much avoided key injuries as a borderline playoff team, a team that was in the race until the last couple of weeks of the season. They didn't have losses like this last year at all during the whole season. They didn't lose a Thomas. They didn't lose a Letty. They didn't lose a Krug. And so this team has already lost, for better or worse, whatever you think of Torrey Krug. They thought he was good enough to pay him $6.5 million. So they've already lost three really key guys early in the season.
I would assume the conversations at least hit for options that, would you bring up Dvorsky and give him a shot? I mean, it's an option that they have now. Didn't make the club, and you say, why now? Well, he needs experience in the minor leagues. The other thing is, too, Dylan Holloway has play center. I mean, I think he was drafted as a center. Right. So that's another guy that would maybe get some consideration for this moving forward. But any way you want to look at it, it's a really tough loss to overcome for the Blues. And this is a long road trip coming up, and it starts with Toronto tonight.
I think the Dvorsky conversation is really interesting because it seems like sometimes with hockey, too, their approach is different than when we look at other sports and really starting those clocks with the younger players. With Dvorsky, as you mentioned, Dan, he wasn't able to make the team, so he wasn't ready just yet. And it seems like they were really set on him getting more seasoning in the minors before bringing him back up. Is this really the best situation to bring Dvorsky up in? Unless he just absolutely tears it up during the span in the minors, then maybe it would make more sense. But do you worry about starting that clock too soon for him and maybe not putting him in the best situation?
I have to see him do something at the minor league level before I bring him up.
Yeah.
I think he's got 6 points so far, 2 goals, 4 assists.
Right.
And it's not just the numbers, but it's how you're playing. 200-foot game, the cliches of that stuff, but it is how you're playing your full game before you bring him up, because you don't want to, first of all, you don't want to stunt his growth, and you don't want to overexpose him at the NHL level if they feel he's not ready.
Right. Thursday night football, the Vikings are a 3-point favorite as they visit SoFi Stadium and the Los Angeles Rams. Rams apparently will get Cooper Kupp back tonight. By the way, yesterday they started the practice window for Puka Nacua. He may return, and that might prompt the Rams to trade Cooper Kupp if they can find a partner that's willing to give up a second-round pick.
Rams, that is really interesting how the season has gone. Of course, dealing with a lot of injuries, as you mentioned there, too, which is a big reason why. But were you expecting this kind of year or season for the Rams?
I was, because they lost the best defensive player of his era. And Aaron Donald was, all due respect to everybody else, Cooper Kupp, who won a receiving Triple Crown, and Matthew Stafford and Andrew Whitworth. The best player on that team when they were great was Aaron Donald. And you lose a guy like Donald, and by the way, their offense has not been good. That's been their major problem. But you lose a guy like Donald, and that's the beacon for your team. He's the benchmark for what you're trying to do.
I would assume that some in our listening audience are curious about this. The Vikings are 5-1 against the spread this year, and the Rams are 1-5. So if you're going down that road, something to think about as you maybe potentially have a little fun tonight outside of just watching the game.
For your friends. Dan.
That's right. That's right. So that's
Friends
something to keep in mind. They are always watching. There's a pretty good college football game on tonight with,
no doubt,
again, college football playoff implications. Pitt is undefeated, and that's another football game to watch tonight. We're in the midst of, by the way, 56 straight days with football, pro and college.
I like that.
I
do, too. I love it. You can find a game every night.
Yeah, and undefeated Pittsburgh with 5-1 Syracuse. So pretty good. By the way, I mentioned the Rams struggling on offense. They're allowing 25.7 points a game, and they are scoring. Where is Where are our LA Rams? We want to see them struggle, and I'm scrolling down. Here they are. I found them. They're averaging 19 points a game, so not exactly prolific for LA Rams.
This is something that just popped in my mind, and because it's in the news here lately, kind of changing subjects a little bit, but when you talked about the Rams, what is going on with the whole deal with the park over here and the Rams, or Stan Kroenke trying to get a hold of it, I guess?
St. Louis trying to tie that thing up in court. St. Louis believes that the lease, which was tied to them being able to buy the facility for $1 after 24 years, I think it was, maybe 29 years. What St. Louis is saying is that the lease just ran out. It expired. And what the Rams are saying is that the lease was terminated. It's all based on technicalities, but I could see how St. Louis would win by saying, no, the lease was never terminated. It just expired.
And we should give a lot of credit to Lou Fuse and their group of, there's Fuse Athletic. And so they are dealing with young boys and girls that are playing soccer, lacrosse, football. I mean, and they use that facility nonstop. I mean, it is 7 days a week. They stepped up. They took over the facility. They've upkept the facility. They've made sure it's really good for kids, and they need to be there.
So
it's
you're
something
telling
that's important.
me, Dan, that Stan Kroenke would want to take away something that's good for kids in our area?
I would say that for sure.
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, just think of it. For fans that don't know, and there's some people that don't know, like they're saying, what's going on with the facility? It's been being used for a long time
Ever
now.
since the Rams left, right?
Exactly.
A year after the Rams left.
And it's helping out kids.
Yeah.
You know, kids are getting a chance to play sports. It's raining, it's snow outside. They go indoors and they got a chance to play.
And kudos to our friends at Lou Fuse, because that's not a cheap excursion
No, it's
in
not.
keeping that facility up. And that would just be, that would add to the list of heinous things that Kroenke has done upon departing here. When you talk about buying the ranch and kicking the people off of the ranch in Texas, or buying the piece of land that people used to fish on in Canada, but not allowing them to get to that land so that they could go fishing on a public piece of land. Just the things that he does are extraordinarily wicked.
Basically, you're saying that if you need a Halloween costume and you want to be one of just the scariest things out there, just dress up as Stan Kroenke.
There you go. That'd be good. There you have
You're going to need a few things.
Yeah, he will.
You got to get the stash. You got to get
toupee. Yeah.
A few things.
I know, yeah. Tan suit.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can do it. There you have it. That is our Rush Hour Reset here on 101 ESPN. Coming up, speaking of Stan Kroenke, he was actually on the podium when the Rams won Super Bowl 34. Ew. But it has been 25 years. And coming up, we're going to talk to and hear from Roland Williams, the tight end for that Rams team, next on 101 ESPN. Hey, if you have not had your furnace checked out by Hoffman Brothers yet, you need to have it checked out. Hoffman Brothers is, and always has done, great work on HVAC systems in the St. Louis metro area. And this morning it was 43 degrees, and it's only going to get colder. And you want to ensure that your heating system is ready to go for the winter here in St. Louis. If you notice any strange smells or noises or uneven heating when you turn it on, Hoffman Brothers is here to help. For a limited time, you can take advantage of 0% financing for 60 months on complete HVAC system installations. We had a couple of furnaces in our two-story home replaced a couple of years ago by Hoffman Brothers. The price was great. The quality is great. The installation was pristine. We love Hoffman Brothers in the Carricker household, and you will too. Their number is 314-664-3011. You can find them on the web and make an appointment at hoffmanbros.com. That's HOFFMANN. And you can schedule that heating check today. Your appointment must be scheduled before October 31st, and completion date is set at your discretion. Hoffman Brothers is a proud independent American Standard heating and air conditioning dealer.
25 years ago, greatness hit a new speed in St. Louis.
Fires up the middle.
And the gateway to the West became
The gateway to the best football team in the world.
from the lowest lows
Green went down hard and is not getting up.
to the highest highs.
Mike Jones made the tackle, and the Rams have won the Super Bowl.
And every unbelievable moment in between.
Touchdown. Ricky Prohl in the corner.
Every piece of the 99 season felt like a story. And today, we continue the legend of the greatest show on turf.
Welcome back to the opening drive on 101 ESPN, and today we continue our series of interviews celebrating 25 years since the St. Louis Rams won Super Bowl 34. And joining us today, a guy who had a big day against the Cleveland Browns in a 34-3 win 25 years ago today, Roland Williams. Roland, it's great to have you with us. How you doing?
I'm doing great, man. Enjoying my drive and glad to be talking with you.
Well, it's always good to have you with us. And I want to start with this because you'd gone 4-12 in your rookie year. Everything was weird in 1998 with the team almost boycotting the coach. So how surprised were you to be 5-0 as you went into that Cleveland game back in 1999?
Well, I said, thank goodness we had this Hall of Fame coach named Dick Vermeil that had us believing that we could be great despite our past. And so in our mind, as we started training camp, you know, we started bobbing and weaving and believing that we were young and that we could do anything. And so I think everyone else was surprised except for us on that football team. We believed that we could be great that year.
Was it Coach Vermeil that instilled that belief or somebody else?
I think Coach Vermeil is the originator, the guy who poured in the vision, the hard work, the discipline, and really sold us on the anatomy of a Super Bowl champion, literally what it took from at position by position. I mean, he brought us around smoking Joe Frazier. He did everything he could so that we could be extraordinary. And, of course, it didn't hurt to have a few more Hall of Fame players on the football team.
No doubt, and we'll get to those guys. But in that game against Cleveland, you scored the first touchdown of the game in the first quarter. Then your second in the second quarter made it 21-3, and you guys were always ahead. On a regular basis, you were scoring a lot of points in the first quarter. In the second quarter, had a big halftime lead. And we, as fans, anticipated that you would. How much confidence by that point in the season had you built as an offense?
I think, you know, Mike Martz, just a great offensive mind, and, of course, our wide receivers. By then, Kurt Warner was smoking and grooving, and everybody knew about the greatest show on turf. I thought that game was so interesting because it showed how Mike could pivot and how he could be able to leverage all the assets that he had at the table. Not that he needed much from the tight ends and the passing attack, but it sure was fun to go from physical blocker to receiver for an afternoon. It was a great time, and of course I'll never forget the time I did score 2 touchdowns in a game, man. It was pretty cool.
And also in that game, Roland, Marshall Faulk may have had the greatest touchdown run in St. Louis history, a 33-yard touchdown run. What do you remember about that run?
I remember that I was trying so hard to block for him, and he faked everybody out, including us. There was that moment where he put his foot in the ground and sort of stopped, and then the whole world just froze. I was like, it was so fun to block for him. I said, man, it's so fun to block for you because we don't even know what you're going to do, which makes it so fun. But what a talented guy, man. He got gears, man. He had amazing gears. He shifted on, he stopped, he curved, he dipped, and then he turned his jets on and then outran everybody. It was pretty cool.
Okay, Roland, I want people to go to YouTube and just look up Marshall Faulk run versus Cleveland because there's a couple of things. Number one, Dick Vermeil said on NFL Films, Marshall's coming off the field. He said, we didn't block anybody on that play. But you, number 86, finished your block against a guy named Stalin Kolonay, number 93. You were blocking on that play.
Come on, man. I'm so glad you noticed that, man. You know, as a guy who loves to block, and I heard him say that NFL Films, I'm going to say, hold on, not so fast, Coach. There was one guy, there was a couple of us that made some blocks on that one, but, man, Yeah, again, so much fun. I'm so glad you noticed that, man. This is so good on my drive this morning. I get a chance to remember this moment that someone actually saw that. That's so good.
Well, not only this, Roland, not only did I notice that, but the first guy down there to join Marshall Faulk in the end zone was you. Not only do you hold your block, but you're trying to block somebody else downfield. Find somebody else to knock over.
I just guess I must have extra energy from scoring a couple touchdowns, man. So to remind us that this is still the NFL, and everybody's not enamored with all of our newfound success.
Now, that year, you scored 6 touchdowns, and you scored 2 in the game we're talking about, the game against Cleveland. But you also scored the first TD pass of Kurt Warner's career in the opener against the Ravens. Now that Kurt's in the Hall of Fame, and you went through your career, how much does that mean to you?
It means a lot. At the time, we didn't know that this was going to be our Super Bowl season. We didn't know how amazing it was going to be. And I'm just so grateful because the play really showed the greatness of Kurt Warner. I mean, we know I wasn't the first read on that play or the second read or the third read for that matter, right? but Kurt Warner, a guy who just knows how to get the ball around and just throws it to whoever he's supposed to, found a way to get that ball back to me. And so I'm just grateful to have played with so many amazing players. I'm so grateful to have played with so many amazing coaches. And it's something I'll cherish for a lifetime.
One of the things that Coach Vermeil would always tell us in the press conferences was Kurt played beyond the scheme, and you always had to be ready because, like you said, you might have been the third, fourth option on a play, but you have to be ready because Kurt can find you. Were you surprised to get the ball on that first touchdown pass?
I was not surprised at all because people don't know that Kurt Warner and I had a special connection on scout team, for years prior. We had a rapport already. And me as scout team receiver, I don't know if I was, Tom Brady or whoever I was, Tony Gonzalez or whatever I was that week. And he was Tom Brady. I was Gronk. I mean, whatever it was, I felt like there was always a moment for him and I to connect. We did often in practice, and it was so much fun. And so I felt like it was an old scout team rep, but it was more people around.
Roland, we in the media know that you were always a fun guy. You were always enjoyable. You were always cordial with us. But you just had such genuine joy when you played. And we always enjoyed that. And another NFL Films thing, when you guys are beating up on the Vikings, you get it to 49-17, and you're on the sideline saying, it's a spectacle. It's a spectacle. It was awesome. How much fun did you have as a young player? And were you savoring the fun that you were having?
In all honesty, I was someone who felt like I was so blessed to be there. I was a guy who didn't really play ball in high school. I played 1 year. I was injured. I just got introduced to the game. I was a guy who had to earn his stripes in college. I only played like a year and a half. So to make it to the NFL, and I only actually played 2.5 years, and to be playing with those guys, for my rookie year to be rookie of the year, I mean, I was living a dream, man. And so it was so much fun because I was really genuinely so happy to be there every single day. I was so happy and had so much fun. And so, and I'm an outgoing guy. So I was pretty much just saying what I felt out loud. I guess I'm glad folks got some laughs out of it. But really, I was just authentically just sharing what was in my heart, man, at any given moment.
Roland, do you have a favorite memory, whether it's from a practice or something that happened in the locker room or something that happened on the field in a game? Is there a favorite memory or story that you recall from '99?
I think, out of all the moments that we had, I think that when we went on our journey and to sit there before the Super Bowl in the locker room and to look up at all those guys, knowing how far we had came, I think it's just a feeling you never forget. I mean, we were the worst in the league, man, and we turned it around. And it takes a special group of men to do that. It takes a special time, and had the greatest fans in the world too, man. And it was so much fun.
Do you have a favorite photo that you have, whether it's in your phone or on your computer or in your office at home, a favorite photo from that year?
I have a few photos. I have there's a great photo that a photographer took that was like of us in the huddle, and all the guys, everybody signed it, and it was just a a moment in time, man, that I'll just never forget. Us getting ready to go to battle, and so just forever grateful. I take the lessons that we got from that year in my life to everything I do now, and with my sons now who have taken on the game, and it's just it's the greatest game in the world, and the greatest moments of my life was in St. Louis, and I'll never forget it.
Roland, you have coached football. You told me before we started recording this that you've coached all three of your sons. In your coaching endeavor, how much of what Dick Vermeil said to you do you apply on a daily or weekly basis?
There's an old quote. There's a quote that he said it all the time, was that the game is not complicated. People complicate things. And that's something that I think of so much. The more we can simplify the game and make it easy, I think that you have a chance to be successful no matter what level it is. And then there's another one he used to say, a quote, he used to say, fatigue makes cowards of us all. And what he meant was you got to be in shape and to be able to concentrate and play. And so just Coach Vermeil was just such a great coach. He cared. He empowered his assistant coaches. And I think just everything about him is something that's good to be duplicated, right? Even when me coaching middle school football.
Do you still stay in touch with Coach at all or anybody from the team?
Yeah, we have like a group text, man, that we keep in touch with a lot of the guys. We all came back to St. Louis. A lot of us came back for Isaac's foundation event, and that was maybe a month or so ago. It was great. And then we're all connecting this year for our reunion that's going to be in St. Louis, in L.A., during the Philly game. And they're going to be honoring Dick Vermeil. So that's going to be great.
Roland, as a guy who played the game and now covers the game, having played on that offense, not just in 99, but beyond 1999, how does the Greatest Show on Turf offense compare to other offenses that you have witnessed?
I think that it was a trendsetter. I think that offense was ahead of its time. I think that a lot of the things that people do now, a lot of routes they try to run now were originally introduced to the league from the Rams. And I think that it's not about just the scheme, it's about the personnel. And so I think that, having a running back come out the backfield, that's a tougher threat in the passing game than he is in the running game. But that was Marshall Faulk. Knowing about the power of having not just one receiver, not just two, but having that third and fourth receiver that's a threat and the different multiplicity of formation. I mean, this was all stuff that was just groundbreaking, and that's why the Rams still hold records today offensively that's going to be a long time till they get broken. So,
and it's interesting to me because when I talk to you guys, I don't have the intimate knowledge that you do, but everybody says if Marshall and Isaac and Torrey and Oz and Ricky and Roland, if they were all playing today with today's rules, that you guys would be illegal.
Right. The game is changing. The game is changing. I mean, I think speed kills. I think speed and hands and scheme and thinking and stuff kill. And I think that it doesn't matter who you're playing against, that stuff translates.
Roland, I read about you and all the stuff you're doing. You're doing media, you're doing coaching, you're doing a lot to stay busy. Keep us get us up to date on what Roland Williams is up to these days.
Well, most importantly, I'm trying to be the best dad I can be with three boys. My youngest in 8th grade, and so we're in the middle of our football season. I'm also into real estate. I'm a real estate developer and doing things I'm passionate about, affordable housing and whatnot, and actually getting a chance to be in the broadcast booth. We actually have the #1 Monday Night Football postgame show this side of the Mississippi here in Los Angeles with ABC7, and that's fun with a great guy named Rob Fukasaki. And so it's been a lot of fun to stay by the game. I participate with the Rams and help out. It is a Ramley, no matter whether it's in St. Louis or it's in L.A., the Rams love still runs deep, and there's a lot of people that loved the Rams for many, many years when they were in St. Louis, and now love them that they're back in Los Angeles. And so it's just great, man, to just be around the game that we love and with the team that we love.
And I don't know if you remember, but when you were a rookie, #1, because of the school you went to, because of where you went to college, but also because you were just so good, I knew you were going to be in the media. Did you?
Well, I hope so. I mean, I was trying to, and I realized, as you know, this is a full-time thing. DeMarco Farr is here in Los Angeles doing a spectacular job with ESPN. I mean, he's just a man, and so you just know that it takes. And Kevin Carter's doing a great job. I mean, it's so much fun to talk about the game, to have a passion for the game, and be able to tell stories and give people a different perspective. And I love it. I just wish that every job actually paid a full-time wage, man, so we can.
No doubt. Roland, it is so good to hear your voice. It's unbelievable that it's been 25 years.
Unbelievable, man. I thank you. I thank you for even thinking of us and celebrating us in this way, man. It's just the greatest. We love you, St. Louis, always in my heart.
Thank you to Roland Williams. And guys, I've said before, my favorite thing to ever cover was that 99 Rams season. I 41 years in the business, and that was my favorite thing to cover. I am really enjoying reconnecting with these guys every week. What a great group of people that Dick Vermeil collected for the 99 Rams.
All right, we get to put you on the spot.
Yeah.
Who's your favorite so far of these interviews?
Do it Russo style, Mad Dog style. Can you do that, Dan?
Yeah, give me some on that.
What do you got?
Isaac.
Yeah, that was great.
Isaac just has such great, vivid memories of the games in that season. Kurt also has unbelievable recall. But yeah, Isaac, and we'll have Isaac again when we talk about the Super Bowl, and we'll get him again for the Vikings playoff game. We're going to do multiples for that, but yeah, I think so far it's been Isaac.
Where's the DV been? I'm ready for him.
He's coming up in a couple of weeks.
Okay.
Yeah, we've got Jeff Wilkins next week, and then Mike Grudadori, and then I think DV after that.
So you had some guys that were great in the media, Roland Williams, and then there's Jeff Wilkins who didn't like the media.
I talked to Jeff Wilkins every week, but he didn't. He wasn't a media guy.
He didn't love it.
No, but we had such a good relationship that he's willing to come on and talk.
So what do you ask a kicker every week?
Well, it's such a
logical question.
Yeah, it is. Number one, talked a lot of golf with him.
Okay.
Because the art of kicking and the weight shift of kicking is very similar. This is why kickers are great golfers. The ability to kick is very similar to the ability to be a good golfer. A lot of the same fundamentals apply. So we talked about that, but talked about his family and his kids, because the kicker is under so much pressure. And he would tell me about, his daughter, I think was 8 at the time. Daddy, are we going to have to move? Things like that, because they're listening to the radio.
Sure.
Yeah. So for him, it was, and then obviously that team was so successful and he was so good, you didn't even really need to talk about games.
He and got to kick indoors, and he was nails.
Yeah.
He was so good.
Money. That was his nickname.
That's right. He was Money.
Yeah. Coming up next,
Enjoyed it. Good job, Randy.
Thank you, sir. Coming up next, we will take a look at Mizzou and Alabama, and Mizzou might have a different starting quarterback this week, but Brooke doesn't think so. That's next on 101 ESPN.
Twin Peaks is the best in the game. Here, it's bigger game days and bolder fight nights. I mean, where else can you find a scratch kitchen that always comes in clutch every day from lunch to late night? Only at Twin Peaks, the #1 sports bar.
There's no place like the #1 sports bar to drive home baseball season. Which team are you batting for in the World Series?
Hey, if you stop by and visit my friends at the Fenton Bar and Grill, ask for the manager, Chuck Nash. He's a great guy. He's a huge sports fan, big soccer guy, big Mizzou football guy, and a great guy to talk sports to. And he has the best staff in the area. I had lunch a couple of days ago over at the Fenton Bar and Grill, and you can stop by and say hi to Casey and Megan and to the feisty redhead Kelly. They'll all be around. Kelly, as a matter of fact, has become kind of a star. You can get her autograph when you go to the Fenton Bar and Grill. And when you go to the Fenton Bar and Grill, there are a couple of things. Number one, on a beautiful day like this, take advantage of the best patio in the St. Louis metro area and enjoy the best trash wings that you will ever have. They are delicious at the Fenton Bar and Grill. Order them up. They come hot, and then all you need to do is get either some ranch or some of their signature golden sauce and have a great start to your meal at the Fenton Bar and Grill. Whether it's lunch, happy hour, dinner, you'll love it. They'll be showing the Blues game tonight. They'll be showing all the World Series games at the Fenton Bar and Grill, just 2 minutes away from the soccer park. You can find them on the web at fentonbarandgrill.com. And when you stop by, order those trash wings and tell them Randy sent you.
Looking for a dining experience that's a cut above the rest? Come to Gallagher's Restaurant and Event Space in Waterloo, Illinois, your local gem where every meal is a masterpiece. After a stunning renovation, Gallagher's has created the perfect atmosphere for you to enjoy a curated menu with award-winning cuisine and signature cocktails. Visit them at 114 West Mill Street in Waterloo, Illinois, or call 618-939-9933 to make a reservation or inquire about their event space. Gallagher's, where fine dining and heartfelt hospitality come together. Another fabulous locally owned restaurant supported by Kuna Food Service.
Catch the Balloon Party with Tim McKernan and Action Jackson. Weekdays from 10 to 11 a.m. on 101 ESPN. The fastest hour of sports radio is driven by Munganast and Burkhardt Alton Toyota.
This is Rocky with your Sports Center update, driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. The Blues face off against the Maple Leafs tonight. It's going to be a 6 p.m. puck drop, which means you can catch the pregame show starting right here on your home for the St. Louis Blues 101 ESPN at 5 p.m. And, of course, the Blues will be without Robert Thomas, as he's going to miss the next 6 weeks, at least, with a fractured ankle. Also, the Vikings and the Rams kick off Week 8 of the NFL season tonight on Thursday Night Football. That is your Sports Center update, driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. See them at londoff.com. Chevy, together we drive. Are you kidding me?
Yes, I expect Brady to be at practice. Define at.
Participating.
Oh, I don't know if I'd say participating. I anticipate that he will be out at practice, but that's why I'm not letting the media at practice, so that y'all can't worry about what he's doing or not doing at practice.
I'm worried about what Brady Cook is doing or not doing at practice as number 21 Missouri gets ready to take on 15th-ranked Alabama down in Tuscaloosa on Saturday. It's the 2:30 game on ESPN, and Alabama is a 16.5-point favorite. That line has expanded since we found out that it was unlikely that Brady Cook is going to play. ESPN reporting yesterday that Cookie is is extremely limited, I think is what they said about his availability in practice, and it's unlikely that he will play.
I think it's really interesting, kind of the timing of that, too. And, of course, I am not doubting, I want to make this very clear, not doubting that Brady Cook is dealing with an injury here, but I think that there's a little bit of maybe something going on here.
Gamesmanship?
Yes, I think there is some gamesmanship going on, Randy, because I believe that this is more of kind of precautionary course with Cook, but you notice kind of the timing of everything, right? Especially when you saw it go out more nationally, that Brady Cook was very limited in practice, is that he held that that press conference yesterday before practice where media was not allowed to go see Brady Cook because, as he said, he wanted to keep out the speculation or the rat poison, I guess as we like to say, of the media members speculating about how good or bad Brady Cook looks. And then you have the timing after that where nobody saw him in practice, and then you have the report of him being limited or maybe that he might not even play for Saturday. So I think this is kind of a little bit of a tactic by Drinkwitz. Now, how Brady Cook will look will be a big question because, I mean, any sort of ankle injury, as we know, will be hard for him to play on. But I just have a feeling that he still will be starting this weekend.
I think the other concern, too, is Pete Thamel reported that he definitely will miss. He's talking about Nate Noel, who's averaging 5.9 yards per carry. That is huge because you can run a little bit on Alabama. The other thing that concerns me about Alabama is that their tight end said, quote, get back to what we're supposed to wear. Shirts tucked in, 5 minutes, 10 minutes early to meetings, not all this late stuff, not doing what you want to do, just little things like that that carry over to the football field. What if you take one wrong step, one wrong thing, it all carries over? This is going to be a highly motivated Alabama team. I mean, Mizzou's going to get the best, I think, out of Alabama. And Alabama's not going to be looking forward to LSU, who they play the following weekend, and coming off a couple of bad losses this year already. They're going to be ready. This is going to be really tough for Mizzou.
Well, and especially you have everybody nationally talking about how different this Alabama team is, which obviously they are. They dropped really far in rankings after that loss to Tennessee. And so this is a team, you're right, Dan, that has a lot to prove. And on the other side, Mizzou's just dealing with a plethora of injuries. Just looking at the injury report, there's so many doubtful, questionable people on both sides of the ball for this Mizzou team. So that will be a tall test because you're also going to Tuscaloosa facing off against them, and they're trying to prove a lot right now. And this is a team, too, that a lot of people are saying is not disciplined. So that's something else that people will be looking at, too. They want to try to prove people wrong.
Yeah, and I think that's what the tight end is saying, is that we're just not doing the little things that maybe were expected under Nick Saban. The Mizzou's got games remaining at Alabama, home against Oklahoma, at South Carolina, at Mississippi State, and then finish up with Arkansas. It's going to be really tough.
I don't know if Mizzou has the personnel to slow down Williams.
He's awesome.
He's great.
17-year-old kid.
Yep.
He's amazing. And Eli Drinkwitz talked about that yesterday. He said he might be the best player on the field, and he's 17 years old.
Yeah, and Milroe can get the ball to him. They have, even though they have injuries, they lost an offensive lineman. They lost their left tackle. And at Proctor, I think he's back now. But the thing, and we talk about this with Mizzou, that this is a difference between Mizzou and an Alabama or a Georgia or an Ohio State. Alabama plugs in another guy that's going to get drafted high in the NFL when they lose their left tackle.
Yep, that's just the way it goes. You know, we keep saying it every week, too. You got to find a way to get Luther Burden the ball.
Yeah, you do.
I think there was 30 consecutive plays last weekend in which he didn't have a touch, and that just can't happen.
No, the best offensive coaches that I've been around, people like Jim Hannafin and Mike Martz, they had a number, and we've talked about this. They had a number for the number of times you get the ball into the hands of your best player. For Hannafin, it was Roy Green. For Martz, it was Marshall Falk. You've got to come up with that number for a player in a game, whatever level you're at. If you have the dominant player on the field, I guarantee you, Kalen DeBoer has a number that he's going to get the ball into the hands of Ryan Williams.
Yeah, and Williams always finds a way to get the ball, too. He's just so explosive and fun to watch. But you're right, you got to figure out a way to get the ball to Luther Burden. The thing that just concerns me is that with Brady Cook and how questionable he is health-wise, your backup option didn't look great in that Auburn game.
No, not at all. You got to stretch the field at least some way, somehow. I don't care if it's Theo Weiss or Luther Burden or somebody else, but last year, 53% completion rate on passing attempts 10 yards or longer.
That's for Cook.
For Cook. This year, it's 42%. Yeah. I mean, it's been a significant drop in what they've tried to do to stretch the field.
And hopefully a full week of practice for Drew Pine will allow him to be more effective than he was last week. Brooke, Dan, Randy, coming up, we're going to head down the stretch with an edition of Rocc Roll here on the opening drive on 101 ESPN. Hey, our friends at Together Credit Union have an exciting announcement for you. They're partnering with the St. Louis Zoo to offer the exclusive St. Louis Zoo debit card. Here's how it works. The St. Louis Zoo debit card rounds up the change from your transactions and donates the money to the St. Louis Zoo. Why does this matter? Well, your donation will help further the zoo's mission, including growth at the St. Louis Zoo Wild Care Park that's going to open in North County in 2027. What's in it for you? All Together Credit Union members with the St. Louis Zoo debit card will receive an exclusive membership to the St. Louis Zoo. Your St. Louis Zoo membership will include discounts, attraction tickets, parking perks, and more. And if you sign up before the end of the year, you'll receive a sea lion plush toy with your St. Louis Zoo debit card. It's easy to get the card. There are two ways. One, stop by any local Together Credit Union branch. There are 14 in the St. Louis metro area, so there's definitely one by you. Or you can just go online to togethercu.org/zoo and fill out the online application. Together Credit Union, federally insured by the NCUA.
I want to rock. And roll.
Let's rock. Let's rock today.
All right, Matthew Rocchio has Rock and Roll.
The MLS wants to change the format of their season. Right now, they currently run spring to fall. They want to switch to a fall to spring model after the 2026 World Cup. The plan, obviously, right now, the way that the MLS starts is it starts in March. Obviously, the CONCACAF Cup, which City played in earlier this year, started earlier than that, but it starts in March, runs through July, takes a month off for the League's Cup, then comes back and finishes out. And obviously, as we are now seeing with the MLS playoffs starting this week, they play the playoffs from late October through early November. The new plan would be starting in mid-August, playing through early December, taking 5 weeks off, and then coming back and restarting the second half of the season in February. Then you get your playoffs in May, June, potentially, I guess, in July, depending on how the playoffs would work out. The benefit here, as it is from the people who are proposing it, is that MLS would now get their playoffs when the only thing going on is simply just the NHL playoffs, the NBA playoffs, and Major League Baseball starting, as opposed to right now when their playoffs are going up against the NHL starting, the NBA starting, and Major League Baseball playoffs, and the NFL being in the midseason.
Yeah.
I personally think this is a very bad decision Part of that is because I live and work and cover a soccer team in St. Louis, and the idea of having to go to outdoor games in the first week of December sounds absolutely horrible. The idea of going to outdoor games in like the second week of February sounds absolutely horrible. And more so, the idea of a potentially playoff-less St. Louis City leaving us with only the Cardinals to talk about from June through August.
Yeah, not great.
I don't like the idea of only having the Cardinals to talk about for 2 months and not having at least something else every once in a while just to throw out as a little spice in the drink here and there. The greater rationale is that it would line up better with the international windows and the transfer windows of Europe. But I'm also on this point where everyone who's talking about the story, they say that this would align the MLS more with world soccer. And my only comment to that is it would align the MLS with European soccer, which is because everybody else in South America does the same thing that the U.S. does, which is they do spring, fall, because they don't want to be playing in the winter. I think having it a little bit different than Europe isn't a bad thing, and I don't see why everything connected to the MLS has to be how do we connect it closer to Europe for it to be successful.
And if you want to increase your visibility in Europe, you would not want to be playing at the same time as them necessarily.
One way to look at it.
I don't like the idea of basically taking a month off.
They have to. Well, yeah. The thing is it's tricky because it's a year-round season in a lot of ways, but the stipulations in the collective bargaining agreement are that MLS players need to have 6 weeks of vacation, including a 5-week stretch consecutively.
And that would be the winter one?
That, I guess, would be the 5-week stretch in the winter, and then, the summer one would still be, early July through mid-August, which is still like a 3 or 4 week stretch anyhow there.
Sounds goofy.
But then again, the 5-week window, or the summer window is probably will then be eaten up by national team obligations. So the summer window would be eaten up by national team obligations. So I don't think that would count as the consecutive 5-week break. Therefore, that's why you would need the 5-week break in the winter. And then the 6th week, I guess, comes in across the international breaks or what have you.
Not a fan.
I think it's really, well, to your point, too, about being cold, think about a lot more of these northern teams, too.
Yeah, Canada, Chicago. You want to play a soccer game in New England in the first week of December or the first week of January?
No.
Minnesota? Yeah, again, even in St. Louis, I get it. Dallas, Austin, Miami, LA, San Diego's coming into the league this next year. They have no problem. In fact, they actually might like it better to not have to play games when it's 97 degrees outside in the middle of July. I understand that thought process. I started this by saying I personally do not like this because it affects how I would cover the soccer team I cover, which was I would be cold and bored for huge chunks of the season, and I don't like that.
Don't teams like Seattle, Atlanta, Minnesota, New England, don't they play in NFL stadiums? Right?
A lot of them, a lot of teams are going to soccer-specific stadiums, but there are a few who still do play in NFL stadiums.
It seems like it would be prohibitive, too.
Well, I was also going to ask, how many teams in MLS have, like, a grass pitch? Because maintaining that, I feel like, would be really hard in the wintertime.
That's a really good question. That wasn't brought up in the article on The Athletic. What was brought up is that winter teams, like, say, St. Louis, would have to practice inside, probably, for a lot of times, and most likely you have an indoor training facility would be turf, and players and soccer players hate playing on turf, so then you would literally be relegating half of your league into having to train with their players on a turf that those players do not find suitable to play on. And so now it's talking about the detriment of being in Miami as opposed to being in Chicago.
Yeah.
And so, I don't like it. Again, a lot of people are texting in. I acknowledge the fact that, yes, this lines up better with the international windows for the international competitions. It lines up better with the transfer windows. I'm aware of all that. The bottom line is the Major League Soccer can make things like the transfer window and the roster building easier on their own by getting rid of some of their dumb rules and making it a little bit less complicated. I'm not saying it's going to alleviate all of the issues you have with the transfer windows not lining up. Specifically in the article, it is presented that one of the biggest issues is that because the transfer deadline for St. Louis City, not just it being mid-season in the summer when everybody else is in the off-season in Europe, the problem is that it ends before the European one ends. And so in Europe, a lot of the teams like to wait until the last day because they they like to see how everything's falling out before then they react. The problem is if your summer transfer window ends before that, you don't get to partake in that final fallout and picking up things as they fall. You have to get things done early, and therefore you get left out. So I understand all those rationales. Bottom line, I don't want to be cold and bored. Don't do it.
I'm with you. Bottom line. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Randy.
That's our audio-video engineer, the one, the only Matthew Rocchio, doing great work. Brooke, did you have fun today?
Of course.
Glad you did.
Great
Danny
job,
Mac.
Randall.
You
Great
were
job,
awesome.
Brooke.
Thank
Matthew.
you. Thank you, and we thank you for tuning in and texting in and being a part of the show. We've got a balloon party coming up with T-Mac and Ajax, followed by BK and Ferrario, and then the Fast Lane from 2 to 5 leading up to Blues hockey from Toronto, 5 o'clock pregame. Until tomorrow morning at 7 o'clock, have a fabulous Friday Eve, St. Louis.